Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Colin, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we are joined by our producer's son, Richard.
Hello.
Each week we talk about
you. Would you sound like?
See? Our producer's son, Richard. Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you. While I am a bird, I am a plant. Oh, God damn it. I am rarely excited to be here. That is true.
I missed you guys.
I missed you guys too.
It's been like 4 weeks.
Well, yeah, for the people listening, it hasn't. It's been seamless
Yeah, I know.
because we're so professional. But yes,
Judging by all the accurate, timely news that we've been doing.
yeah, but in real life, yeah, we haven't done this in 3 weeks, and Colin missed the one before it, which was the one with Kyle Clark.
I know.
So it's been a full.
That's okay. I met him at the brewery. We did the whole thing there.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
I thought you were out of town.
He left the next day.
Oh, yeah. I see.
The cat did come back, though.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been like a month since the
Stop
three of
slurping
us.
into the...
It's a good cup of joe.
I really have missed you guys.
Have you?
Oh, fuck you.
I like what we do. We have fun.
That was almost a legitimate spit take.
Yeah.
And in news, Steven Spielberg will make DC's Blackhawk movie. And it's going to be called Blackhawk Down again.
It's going to check out this big Blackhawk.
Oh,
That's not what I meant at all. Did Spielberg not do Blackhawk Down?
I don't think.
With Josh Hartnett and all those guys, the helicopter.
Whatever happened to
know-
Hartnett?
I know the movie you're talking about, but
He got tired of being in Hollywood, you know.
that rat race. But yeah, Steven Spielberg, this was just recently announced. He's going to be directing a DC Comics
Ridley
movie.
Scott.
But the movie that he's doing is Blackhawk. So it's like a world. No, I know how I said it. I know what it said. Black Hawk.
Steven Spielberg.
Bigger, blacker.
We're here for you.
More Hawk.
How much hawk can you take?
Hawkier than ever before.
Yeah, DC execs were your new marketing team. But it's like a war. It's likely to be like a war era film. The Blackhawks are like a team of like pilots. Like
Seriously, stop.
there's been some talk too that we may have already seen a member of that team, and it might be the character of Samir from Wonder Woman. The
Spielberg
actor
says, "Talk hawk to me.
Show me that hawk." We were gone for 4 weeks,
How much hawk was too much hawk?
and then we were back for 2.5 minutes.
This summer,
It's more hawk than I can take.
Jesus Christ.
it was more hawk than he could take.
Oh my god, I can't take 2 hawks at once.
2 hawks at the same time.
I'm not saying that I would be interested in a blockbuster sized DC Comics porno, but maybe going the genre film route, the way that Fox does with like some of their X-Men movies, is maybe the way to go.
Oh, yeah.
From Blockcocksters comes.
Do you say Blockcocksters?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a cockbuster movie? Like the summer,
I know.
the summer cockbuster.
That's amazing.
I love that you didn't think of
I totally didn't.
You went for the most cumbersome possible.
I bought and sold on Blockcocksters.
Yeah. So, long story short, for those who just tuned out, Steven Spielberg is joining the DC universe as a director, and it's likely going to be like a war era film.
I thought you said long story short.
It would have been that short if we didn't like go into the weird like porno alternate universe.
DC's Injustice comic will cross over with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah. So, I mean, Warner Brothers and DC own
This summer from Cockbuster.
not everything is. There's a podcast network name.
Thank you.
Yeah, so DC owns like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So that's He-Man, She-Ra, Skeletor, like all of those characters. And they've crossed over like in comics before, like in just like special sort of like non-canon issues. But now that Injustice universe where Superman goes crazy and becomes a dictator is going to cross over. And I guess the idea is that a similar sort of situation will be happening on Eternia, where the Masters of the Universe live. And then they're going to answer like a call for help from the Injustice universe, from Batman, presumably. And they're going to team up to try and take despot Superman down.
Hello, Batman!
Yeah, I know, like Skeletor. At least it's a comic, right? Like we don't have to deal with his voice the whole time.
What's this? Oh my god, it's also Transformers? I'm Starscream!
It was the same voice.
Yeah,
It's 100% the same voice.
Yeah, Skeletor and Starscream. Absolutely. Are there any others that would be the same voice as that?
Some people's...
Ninja Turtles!
Oh, Krang.
Yeah.
It's close. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good call. Well, there have been those Batman Ninja Turtle crossovers. There's always like crossover comics that aren't like canon, but they're just kind of like fun sort of diversions. And I think this one, I don't know if it'll be fun because it's the Injustice universe, but it'll be a crossover.
It'll happen.
It'll happen, yeah.
It'll be a thing that happened.
I would expect to see some beloved Masters of the Universe die.
You're a monster.
I'm just saying. That's usually the way those Injustice comics go. They
wanna
make you root for someone and then kill them.
They're going to kill that damn tiger, aren't they?
You want to see their membership numbers go down? Is that what you're trying to say?
Ooh.
Batgirl movie gets a new screenwriter, and that's pretty neat.
Yeah, finally they fixed what. Hopefully they're going to fix what Joss Whedon did.
Well, yeah,
way to
I
go,
don't think you bring in a new screenwriter and leave the script. So.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true.
But yeah,
He's like, this is my ball. I'm taking it home.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. You can have it, Joss.
so the screenwriter's name is Christina Hodson, and she's also the one that's writing the Birds of Prey movie.
That's right.
But then she's also I hope I don't get this wrong. I think she has written the like Bumblebee like Transformers spin-off movie and stuff like that. So she's got a few sort of like big ticket things coming up that or coming out in the next few years. So it makes sense though to put someone that's working on Birds of Prey also on Batgirl, because Batgirl is a member of that team. So if you want some sort of like cohesion in like at least that corner of the DC universe, I think it makes sense for those things to be connected. Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much more to say about it than that. But
Wow. Tell me how excited you really are.
How excited are you to talk about what we talk about next?
Dude, I can't wait to talk about the things that we're going to talk, because the talk.
we should have like eased him back into co-hosting, like just given him monosyllabic words.
You know, there's like just a few episodes you could go back and listen to and like hear like how the job
well
could
it
be
goes.
done. Yeah. It's weird when like everything's cohesive and in like a I want to say things are moving in one direction. How would I describe that?
I'm really
Like,
excited to cut him off, and then he's going to say something really silly in a silly
like
voice.
Momentum.
Scott Snyder explodes the DCEU with new Justice League comics.
Oh, I'll get you back. Don't worry.
And Richard says,
Scott Snyder.
I don't like to jump for you when you make me. I don't know. I'll do what I want. Well, if you give me those eyebrows, I'll do whatever you want.
Sorry, what was the news again? I actually completely tuned out.
I know the no beard is weirding you out.
Yeah, you shaved your beard.
I'm going to call it a near beard.
A neared,
A near beard.
Yeah.
Because like you're growing it back out, right? That's the plan?
potentially. We'll see how I'm feeling about it.
No, it wasn't a question. Like, this can't continue.
Oh, I don't know.
Great Lakes Grooming, we're so sorry. We didn't know he did this. Please don't pull your support.
So for our listeners who haven't seen it all over his social media, our producer Richard has shaved his face.
He looks 17 again.
That's why I made a joke earlier about our producer's
He looks
son
like
is
sad
here.
Matthew Perry got
I was going to say, I'm like,
de-aged.
you mean I look like Zac Efron? Nice.
Nope.
Damn it.
Nice.
That was an accidental compliment.
Hells.
Back to the news. Yeah, so Scott Snyder, at the finale of DC Metal, which was this big event that he was writing, it was revealed that they broke a hole in the source wall, which is the wall that contains like all of creation. You can't move past it. So there's a mini-series, 4 issues coming out in June called No Justice. And the Justice League and some of their biggest villains have to team up in sort of teams to address these like energies and creatures that might come out through the breach in the source wall. So basically it's like sort of opening up the possibilities of like what makes up the fabric of reality in the DC universe.
So, I'm sorry, is this not from Snyder, but from Morrison?
Well, I mean, Snyder is taking lots of cues from Morrison, I think. And
Well, he should mind his P's first. Tell you what.
right. Yeah, cues. Yeah, thank you. I liked that more than I wanted to. I mean, they teamed up for Dark Knight's Rising: The Wild Hunt, which was an issue of
Yes.
Dark Knight's Metal. And I think Snyder is, he's taken a few plays out of the Morrison playbook. But now the payoff of those things is coming up. So Metal kind of left some questions, and now No Justice and the Justice League comic that are going to be spinning out of that are going to pick up those threads, and we're going to go from there and see what happens.
That's very exciting.
Sean Murphy sets ground rules for possible post-Batman White Knight.
I don't know why you're saying it like that. Like it's really confusing to you.
Yeah.
Like you had some background information, and now you're very surprised that this is happening.
Well, I'm surprised by the name.
So Batman White Knight was like a non-canon
Is he
story.
like old Batman now? Is it like Gandalf the White, like Gandalf the Gray or Gandalf the White?
Yeah. Do you want me to explain it?
I was gonna say because I'm like
I was about to.
Yeah.
I was this close. I knew it was going to come up. Batman White Knight is the non-canon
Is this the explanation?
miniseries that Sean Murphy wrote.
is this just happening right now?
And in that
real
world,
time.
Oh, cool.
they come up with this like basically like a medication that makes the Joker sane. And to atone for his time as the Joker, he starts.
It's gonna make you jump.
He
I
basically
thought you were gonna go insane in the membrane. To be honest.
to atone for his time as the Joker, he starts basically like contributing to like social programs in Gotham. He becomes the White Knight in Gotham, like where Batman is beating up the mentally ill.
Well, that's not nice.
The Joker, aka Jack Napier, actually becomes like maybe what Batman should be, like someone who's
That's right.
trying to make actual real change.
So hold on. Is the Joker's real name Jack Napier the whole time?
In
this-
that story,
Yeah.
it's not like part of like the main continuity. It's like
Which you're not a big fan of.
I don't like giving the Joker a specific thing, but it works in that story.
What is the Joker's real name?
We don't know.
Well, that's not.
Jack Napier.
Well, in that story, and in the 1989 Batman movie, it's also Jack.
It's obviously Jerome.
Actually, it's Jeremiah. Whoa, that's the big reveal.
He was
That's
a
right.
bullfrog. He was a good friend of mine.
Nice,
I never understood a single word he said.
but he did have some mighty fine wine. But yeah, basically, Sean Murphy has. I think people have responded well to
We're gonna
that
edit that out,
miniseries,
right?
Yeah.
and so I
We
think
cannot give him that one.
and I think Sean Murphy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And I think Sean Murphy is basically just hinting at the idea that maybe there are more stories to tell in that world that he set up in White Knight.
It's Son Murphy.
Sure.
Are you done with that now? Can we move on to the next one?
It's difficult to know when I'm done when you're not listening.
Sorry, what?
Fuck.
Murphy.
Did I say that I missed you?
Oh yeah. Just really want to make sure that didn't continue.
I'll never miss you again.
Oh, so sweet.
Is that because we're always going to be stuck in this room together?
Stuck in this room with you.
That was the original lyric. And we're not leaving until we write a new song.
Hey guys, I wrote a song.
Shut up, Ringo.
Oh, good. We're gonna put it right on the fridge for you.
I love that joke so much.
It's really good.
Lynda Carter in talks for Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah, so Lynda Carter played the original Wonder Woman in the 70s.
What's she going to do? Be her mom?
I don't know.
don't know.
I mean, her mom's already cast,
yeah.
so I'm very curious.
Grandma?
It's Connie Nielsen plays Queen Hippolyta, but who knows what possible role
Her mother-in-law.
there would be for Lynda Carter. But
She'd have to be married, but yeah.
I like the idea of throwing her in there. It's kind of surprising she wasn't in the first one, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually was.
You know, as far as like when you cameo or like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like throw in a little something for the people that used to play the role before. So it's nice that she'll be in there for the second one, but we don't know anything about what that's going to look like yet.
Beth Schwartz, new Arrow showrunner.
Yeah, so they have finally replaced.
The Batman.
Yeah, it's Andrew Kreisberg was the one that was dismissed for sexual misconduct. I mean, the bigger story is just that Arrow is somehow still going to be on the air, maybe. But
Hey, oh yeah, what's her name? Just recently left Red Hood, right?
sorry. Oh yeah, no, not Red Hood. She was
Yeah, sorry.
Speedy, but yeah, Thea Queen, what's the actress's name? Willa Holland.
Yeah.
Just left the show. But I heard that Colton Haynes, who plays Arsenal, is actually like returning like as a series regular.
Oh, really?
So all we can hope for is that with the new showrunner, it maybe bends back to a more interesting direction, because like that show's just kind of lost.
Ragman.
I mean, they tried that, but he's too powerful. It's a show with a guy with a bow and arrow, and then a guy that can harvest souls. Like,
hey,
one of those is stronger than the other.
Then if that's Hawkeye can be on the Avengers, I'm just saying.
Wow, yeah.
What a great spinoff, though, that could potentially be.
Ragman?
Yeah,
I would be.
Why not? Like, if this show is such a fucking dead in the water show, why are they not spinning it off?
Well, do you know what's weird?
Do you
know what's weird is that Constantine had one season of its own, and it was sort of like laying groundwork and Easter eggs for like that whole sort of magical side of things. Like the Helmet of Fate was in there. You had this whole thing with Jim Corrigan. We were getting like teases of the Spectre, but then that show didn't make it past one season, and now Constantine, he's shown up a couple of times in single episodes of other like Arrowverse shows, and he's going to be a series regular on Legends of Tomorrow next season. So if any show is going to pick up Ragman and give him a home, I'd say it's Legends as opposed to Arrow.
Yeah, I mean that makes a ton of sense, right? Like
even for like an episode, right? You can just bring him in. He helps them solve the thing. And
what
then
a dark horse! Like the Legends is turning into the best of them all.
That show is now, I'd say, the best.
I need to start watching it because I jumped off after the first few episodes.
Which show? Sorry,
Legends of Tomorrow. Part of what makes it work
is that on Netflix?
No, not yet.
I think on American Netflix it is, but we don't get it up here.
Son of a bitch.
We'll just drive over to Alaska for a weekend.
Or just get like a proxy server.
No, I'm not a pirate.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that.
That's against the law, Doc.
Cut this.
Do you want to go to jail? You're a doctor with a child.
But yes, Legends of Tomorrow is like a crazy good show now. And I think part of it is that they sort of like embraced how silly it is. Like some stuff is just ridiculous, like time travel and like, oh no, there's a dinosaur in LA, and they just kind of like,
or like a guy who says he's a doctor but he's not really a doctor.
Yeah, what's ridiculous about that?
Good thing that nothing like that's happening.
Do you guys know about that?
Anyways,
Green Lantern Corp getting a new color in the spectrum.
So part of this thing that we were talking about with Scott Snyder, kind of
exactly get one,
adding like
I didn't
new
do
things.
mine yet.
Oh, that's true. Like, we did them.
Yeah, you guys did like 7 each.
That's the way that Richard edited it. We only did it once, but he just kept looping it.
Really, just getting that joke in there.
Looped it.
But part of what's going to be introduced, the fallout of this thing with the source wall, is that Jon Stewart, who is going to be the Green Lantern on the Justice League moving forward, is going to basically encounter a new light of the emotional spectrum, which is the ultraviolet core. I don't know what it means. I don't know like what emotion it's meant to represent. Although they do,
all of them.
They do use the word ultra violence in like the solicit. I don't know if that means that that's tied to what emotion it is, but yeah, we're getting like, I don't know if that's going to be the start of a bunch of new colors. Like if we'll see like the infrared core too or something like that. But at any rate, it shows that Scott Snyder is looking to really like shake things up, introduce new ideas all across.
Finally bring Mila Jovovich into the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah. That's the crossover we were waiting for. Yeah, exactly.
Warner Bros. Picks director for next Harley Quinn film. And it's Richard.
No.
I know. I'm really the dark horse of the DCU.
You would be with 0 directing credits.
The movies I make just haven't gone to the sites that maybe you go on to, but
oh no, they do.
Oh. That's where all those downloads came from.
Yeah, DrDCPodcast.com.
Hey, we said we were mature.
Yeah, we said it, but I think the director's name is Kathy Yan. But she's she's like an indie director. She had she has one kind of film that's sort of been getting some buzz and I think some like awards from festivals and that. But apparently her pitch for Birds of Prey really wowed Margot Robbie, who's one of the producers for that movie, and they hired her. So she's taking on like DC's like all female team movie. And the fact that Margot Robbie is producing and Harley is going to be in it, I think it's I mean, she could potentially be a member of the Birds of Prey, but I think it would be really interesting if the Birds of Prey, who are usually like Batgirl, Black Canary, Huntress, went up against like the Gotham City Sirens, which is Catwoman, Harley, and Poison Ivy. I think that would be kind of cool. Who knows which way it's going? Apparently the script, there's 2 very different scripts, and the team roster is basically entirely different. But the only constants are Batgirl and Harley Quinn.
Wow.
They just have to pick their teams at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Be like kickball after school.
Yeah. Yeah, I take Black Canary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that crossover, though, where it's like they pick, some of the bad guys, some of the good guys on each team.
Right.
Then who wins?
We all do.
DC execs.
We know you turned off episodes ago.
Gotham City kickball. That's our pitch.
Do it.
Gotham Side Story.
Gotham Side.
Randall Park, cast as Dr. Shin and Aquaman reshoots.
So stoked for this.
Who is Randall Park?
Randall Park. Do you remember?
Do you remember the episode of The Office with Asian Jim?
What?
No.
Do you remember that movie that Seth Rogen did about North Korean dictator?
Oh, yeah.
The dictator. He's the guy who played Kim Jong.
Oh, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah, he's super funny. I love Randall Park.
So the character
If that guy was a real dictator, I would be into it.
he could dictate me any day.
It's a weird stance to take.
No, I just mean like if he was a dictator, I would be like, yeah, that guy seems okay. Let's just let him run a country. No, leave him be.
The Interview, that's what it was called.
Yeah, The Interview.
Yeah, and he's awesome on Fresh Off the Boat and Trainwreck, and he's so funny in everything he does.
The character that he's playing, Dr. Shin, in the New 52 run of Aquaman, was this guy, this scientist that no one else believed that Atlantis existed, and he did, and he kind of like, when Arthur was a boy, he like ran tests on him, but he was like basically trying to prove the existence of Atlantis to make himself sort of famous and that, but he ends up causing more like damage by sort of revealing who Arthur is and things like that.
By testing on a small child?
Well, I say testing, but it was like Thomas Curry, like Arthur's father was like, I don't know how to raise a child that can breathe underwater. And so he was trying to get help for him. And then Dr. Shin saw it as like, this is going to be his big breakthrough. I'm going to find Atlantis, etc., etc. So it'll be interesting to see a character.
Bath time was pretty weird. Right? Come on, Arthur. Time to get out.
I guess.
It's the worst issue I've ever read.
But yeah, I mean, the fact they cast Randall Park, I don't
drowning his child.
I don't think they're casting him because he's still breathing. Funny, like I don't think Dr. Shin is going to be a comedic character, but I think
it's a weird pick then.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think we've proven in the last few years, well, and just always, that comedic actors are
do dramatic roles really well.
Nail dramatic roles.
Yeah.
So I
Robin Williams.
Yep. Just watched Good Will Hunting yesterday. It was really good.
I'm tearful.
It's not your fault.
No, not you.
It's not your fault.
No, don't fuck with me.
It's not your fault.
I'm so sorry,
Richard.
She used to fart in bed. She used to fart in her sleep.
Richard. It was your fault.
I know. Just as I
bad
planned.
Will Cullen.
All right.
Not a bad title for a movie. Be a different kind of film, but
much less inspiring.
Yeah, whatever. Jim Lee teases One Punch Man collaboration.
Did he actually tease a collaboration, or was he was doing sketches or something online and didn't?
Why does this sound like a YouTube video with just a dude running around knocking people the heck out?
Do you not know what One Punch Man is?
We talked about him before.
One Punch Man is like this cartoon about this like superhero.
Is it like Stump Chunkman? One Punch Man?
No. He's like the superhero that like ends every fight in one punch, and so like the whole cartoon is about how like he hates his existence. He's just bored all the
short fight.
Well, exactly. So he's like constantly bored, and he's like he kind of like hates his life because there's nothing interesting. There's nothing he can't.
Why doesn't he stop fighting people? Maybe like, I don't know, take up macrame.
I don't know, man. Watch the fucking cartoon.
Are we watching it?
No.
Oh.
We're not going to take like 12 hours to watch the cartoon in the middle of recording.
Is that 12? Guy punches people once. How is this a 12-hour movie?
Oh my God.
How many people does he punch?
What's the next piece of news?
Well, the next piece of news is how many dudes does this dude punch?
All right. And then after that,
Catwoman gets her own solo title by Joelle Jones. But seriously, how many dudes does this guy punch?
One.
yeah.
That's a 12-hour movie.
You actually thought it was one punch. Yeah, exactly, just one
He's
man
only
that
thrown
punched.
one punch. Yeah.
One punched man.
Yeah.
One punched man.
The ED is silent.
Yeah.
It's actually a guy who just who spiked the drinks at the party just a little too much.
Yeah. It's just one
Punch,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. He was actually chaperoning a party, and there was the one for the adults that were chaperoning and one for the kids.
One punch
man.
Yeah.
There's a comma there. It's one punch, man. Instead of boy.
Or no, it was just that it was
So
actually
he got the adult punch.
this guy showed up, and there was a bunch of men and women around, and he was like, one punch, man. Just make sure you don't hit any of the women.
Yeah, you ma'am there's one punch man and one punch ma'am.
Yeah.
That sounds very confusing for a loud party.
It's a weird like gender segregating party that
Yeah, yeah. It's actually this weird.
How did the bartender not know? Is he blind?
it's
that's
a segregated fight club.
Jesus. One punch man.
I'll take a one punch.
Oh man,
Yeah. How would you like to get beat up today? One
punch man.
I want a man to throw one punch at me.
There's actually a guy who just fights everybody, and he showed up and he was just like, "Hey, who wants a punch?" And he's just like, "One punch man."
I'm so glad we're filling all this space with this now instead.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about, I don't know, like a cult or something crazy. So Catwoman gets her own solo title by Joelle Jones.
Yeah. So Batman number 50 will be the marriage of Batman and Catwoman. And then spinning out of that,
Actually, it's Selena, Kyle, and
Bruce Wayne. Yeah, sorry.
Wayne.
Yeah, I guess they won't be in costume. You're right. No, you're right. It's Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle. You said that the right way. Yeah. But we know who they really are. But spinning out of that will be Catwoman.
damaged people.
I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Catwoman
Parent
number
issues
1.
for days, those two.
I'm excited for there to be a Catwoman thing. Maybe they
She's
can actually do her properly.
And she's had good solo series in the past. But this will be the first time, I think, since the New 52 that there will have been a Catwoman solo series. So, that's exciting to see. And I'm interested to see like how it spins out of the new life that she and Bruce will have, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm hoping that they do sort of like a Good Wife by day, like Catwoman by night kind of situation. I think that'll be fun.
well, I think it's interesting too that like Catwoman is definitely good, like at heart, but still, you know, like she'll like steal occasionally, but it's funny like to steal something and then come home to the Batcave.
But so who's
I'm just interested to see like how they deal with, like they know who each other are, but then to be under one roof,
Exactly.
and things like that I'm excited to see.
people stop trying to like get along and start getting real.
Not that I want the Catwoman.
We're going MTV real world for this
yeah,
marriage.
yeah.
Not that I want the Catwoman book to be about her marriage, but that's because it's spinning out of that event. I mean,
hope
that's,
that we
that's
get
obviously going to be like a factor.
A component of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Who's the Robin right now?
Well, hold on.
Damien.
Because I like the idea of that, like she's like doing like PTA things, but then like stealing from like the school and like doing Catwoman stuff as
Sorry,
a mom.
Catwoman's taking like pencil crayons.
Well, I like the idea of like taking Catwoman stuff and then like putting it in like into like her new role as like a mother to this child and like a wife and
See, now it's interesting that you say that because I don't like issue to issue keep up on the Batman series. I'll read Detective Comics, but not Batman. And then I sort of catch up in one big go. But I don't know that there's actually been that much interaction between
I would
Catwoman and Damien yet.
which is something that should have to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that really. I always forget about Damien.
So here's the other thing, though.
so does Batman.
Yeah.
There's all this like speculation between you two guys about what the next
Who's gonna kiss who first? What?
Okay. That's not weird. It's totally natural. It's just two grown men.
Sorry, speculation between us about
About how the next Catwoman book is going to be like her being this housewife.
I do not want that. That's
I
not
was
what
the
said.
one who was saying that would be cool.
But why aren't we also talking about like what Bruce Wayne is going to be as a married?
Oh
man?
yeah, no, absolutely.
He's like at the bar with his buddies, like, oh, she did it again. Like, can we get some of that action too? Like, if it's going to be her being a stereotypical like wife, can we get the stereotypical?
I didn't say stereotypical. I just said like as a role.
PTA and like all.
Because I think that part would be funny.
crayons.
I think because Bruce will never.
I think
do
it'd be hysterical to see
think-
him like at the bowling alley with his buddies, like, and then she started folding my socks the way I don't like it, and he's like drinking too much.
I think I did
My bad socks.
in my little like yeah, my bad socks. I think in my disclaimer I just said I don't want the Catwoman book to be that, but undoubtedly there will be some aspect of that new like personal life arrangement that feeds into the book. I don't want to see Catwoman doing the laundry. I wouldn't want to see any version of Batman's wife doing the laundry. I want to see Batman doing his fucking laundry so Alfred can sit down.
Yes.
Like,
Bruce Wayne is like going through his sock drawer and he's like, bat sock, bat sock, bat sock, super sock.
I love that.
so sorry, you were throwing shade that Richard only had kind of implied that the Catwoman book should be like a domestic thing, which is already its own problem and not really what Richard said.
Yeah.
And then you replace that with just doing that again, but this time she's having sex with Superman.
Yes.
So Joelle Jones, if you listen to this show, I apologize, and don't do any of our ideas.
You kidding me? Bat sock, bat sock, bat sock, super sock. That's
Don't
hilarious.
do any of our ideas.
Okay, but whoever's writing the Batman comics
Do all of
that.
do that.
Batman
yeah.
comic, do all of our ideas.
Yeah, and then have Superman
don't
show
have-
up and fix a copier.
Except don't have Selena cheat on him.
Throwback.
How dare you?
That was a very like winding discussion. But yeah,
Well, every day
new
is a
Catwoman.
winding road, so.
Every day is a winding road. Get a little bit closer.
You don't know the words.
I don't. I got part way.
I
I was
do.
like, oh shit.
Get a little bit.
That's what Richard does every time he sings a song. He just kind of mumbles the words he doesn't know.
Havana. No.
Is this true? Do you do that?
No. Havana.
This whole time I believed in him.
Yeah. Wow.
That's your first mistake, believing in anything.
He is a really good producer because he keeps actually putting in clips where he knows the word.
I actually like when you guys leave, I like edit it all and like make it sound like I'm this beautiful singer and like put beats behind everything and
A little bit of like reverb in
Yeah.
there too.
yeah.
It's not so dry.
Oh my god, it was so natural.
Where did the strings come from?
I don't know. It was fucking.
I don't remember there being a cellist.
It's beautiful and natural somehow. It's like understated.
God, I spent so much money on this podcast.
I've remortgaged my house.
But God, that quality.
Can't knock the quality.
That's right.
Now on to this week's theme, the last son of Krypton.
We are talking about Superman this week, and that's because
Super sucks.
this past Wednesday,
Kal-El.
Action Comics number 1000 came out. And
80 years.
And it was the 80th birthday of Superman.
Man looks good.
On it was April 18th, 1938
For 80th.
that Action Comics number 1 came out. And yeah, on April 18th, 2018, 80 years later, the 1000th issue came out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we all read Action Comics number 1000, which is made up of a bunch of different stories, some longer and some shorter, by a bunch of different writers and artists. So let's
go to the doctor's prescribed reading. Why not jump right into
well,
that?
yeah, let's like talk about that book, Colin.
Since you have the most recent recollection of that comic,
yeah, meaning
just finished it before we started
Crash
recording.
Course read it.
Yeah.
Why don't we go through? I mean, it'll obviously be a little bit different from when we do the normal reading
Well, yeah,
assignment.
because there's like 12 books in there.
But why don't we talk a little bit about just mention some of the stories, ones that
The planetarium one.
you liked, ones that you didn't, and then yeah, we'll just go from there. So planetarium one, why don't you give us a bit of like a synopsis?
So is that, I feel like that was like Superman and Lex Luthor as kids? Was that the whole thing?
Yeah, so in that story,
Oh, Lex Luthor accidentally blows up a planetarium? Like loses all his hair?
no. So Colin did flip through this issue. So in that planetarium story, Lex Luthor,
Accidentally blows up a planet.
no, none of that happens. he and Superman meet in a planetarium, and Superman says, I know that you've stolen these 2 artifacts, and theoretically it would allow Luthor to cut out any sort of genealogical line in existence. And he uses these artifacts to sort of to peer back in time. And Lex has this very particular memory of trying to make a laser as a school project. And he was like, oh, I just got lucky. I had actually forgotten to superheat something, but like I should have died. And in seeing the memory, we see a young Clark use his heat vision to superheat the thing at the last minute to save Lex. And Lex basically, in that story, you get the idea that he says he was going to erase Superman. And then having seen that Superman saved his life, he decides he's not going to. That's and that's a very short story in there.
Which I totally read.
I mean, you did. I watched you read it, but you got something very different out of it.
Multiple times.
Yeah. I think you just got caught up on the fact that Child Lex has hair.
Yeah, he has hair.
So do you not know the whole story behind him not having hair?
Is this
I thought it was the
Silver Age
explosion
story?
and fire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, which version of it, I guess?
I mean, there's... To be honest, in most versions, I think Lex comes pre-bald.
Pre-packaged without hair.
He's pre-bald. But in the Silver Age, there was a story where Superman does something, like as Superboy,
Heat vision.
He does something and it accidentally causes Lex to lose his hair. And then that becomes like Lex's motivation for hating Superman. That's no longer like the continuity. That's not the case anymore. But for a long time, that was it. You're pointing to Richard's freshly shaven face. I didn't cause that.
No, I was talking about his like beautifully coiffed hair and your perpetual baldness.
Sorry, I'm Luthor. I guess that
awesome.
makes me the smart one.
And also the bald one.
yeah.
We know. Jesus. So that's that planetarium story. Why don't there are a ton of other stories? What's that?
The surprise birthday party one. I like that one.
Right. So
The first
the very
story.
first story.
Yeah.
So why don't you take the listeners through that story?
Martian Manhunter essentially just
You're
really,
skipping so far into the story. You're skipping
Do you
so
want
far.
me to do this or are we not doing this?
Just do the synopsis?
I'm going to Tarantino this thing.
Okay. You're Pulp Fictioning it. Okay, let's do it.
Thank you.
All right.
So basically, Martian Manhunter is the best friend on the face of the earth.
Okay.
Because and this is where the Tarantino part comes in.
Right.
He blocks Clark Kent's memory, aka Superman.
Yep.
If you don't know, now you know. And
Jack Hughes.
You really like that, don't you?
I do. I love that.
I have a funny story about Jack Hughes later. Okay. So then, because Lois Lane is on the phone the whole time,
Right.
And she pretends like she's talking to Perry, who's the editor at the Daily
Planet.
Yeah,
Yep.
Daily Planet.
Daily Global.
Radio newspaper machine. And does he have a kid?
Yeah.
Crazy. His kid's kind of a prick.
Okay.
He's kind of like a snot-nosed teenager.
He's like 10.
Did you get that across from there? I don't
Yeah, he's like, I'll just stand in for dad. He's never here anyways, and blah, blah,
That's
blah.
not really what he's saying.
Pretty much word for word.
And the cat's in the cradle.
Okay.
Superman's kid is total cool.
Okay,
different places.
You keep going with them, and then we'll go back.
Okay,
to
and
this
then,
later. Yeah.
but it all turns out that it's just like this really fun way to get all of his buddies together to help celebrate him and have a monument Superman.
Right.
And the mayor's there. She seems cool.
Yes. So what's happening in this story? You're right.
There's this guy who committed a bunch of crimes, Richard. And like he was like a real bad dude.
Really?
And he's explaining to his kid how like important it is to give people a chance. But he gave this dude like 5 friggin' chances.
Who is this bad guy, though?
I'd have knocked this guy the heck out.
He's like a no one, basically.
He's a nobody.
But he worked for some...
He does have like
he worked for the skull.
The atomic skull.
He had like a Punisher looking shirt on too, which is kind of cool.
So you're right. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Basically,
You have that on tape, right? I can go now.
basically
Yeah, I've been doing all of these episodes
on
to tape.
Yeah, direct.
It's really hard to then digitalize them.
No, you're just editing the old.
You do a really
you're actually
great
like
job, though.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it.
Cutting and pasting.
Oh,
tape.
yeah.
You're splicing.
You don't use scissors. You use a small blade.
Yeah, then I send the can to the iTunes factory. And
Yeah. So in this story, in Metropolis, they're having a Superman Appreciation Day, and John Kent,
John Kent?
that's Clark's son,
Oh, that's a terrible
says, should I stand in for Dad? He doesn't show up to these kind of things. He's not just that he's never around. But yeah, Superman.
Yeah, but you get the undertone of what he means is like for my softball game.
No, that's not what he means.
For your anniversary.
Superman doesn't like showing up to things where he's being like
for our dog's birthday,
like applauded. So Superman is currently in space fighting off an invasion of aliens, but he finishes doing that.
The Coons or the Kundas?
The Kuns, yeah.
Yeah.
And he finishes doing that and he's like, oh shit, like I wish it took longer because now I have to go to this fucking thing. And he shows up and yes, the mayor is there and different people are speaking on what Superman means to them. So there's a firefighter who talks about how he saved his life. There's this like low level sort of thug that worked for a bunch of other supervillains and Superman helped him turn his life around. He recognized that this guy was caught in like a sort of cycle of poverty. And when he got out of jail, Superman gave him like a recommendation to help him get a job and get his life on track. And that's where he tells John, like, it's important, like, people can always be better, stuff like that. And all through this, Superman is looking for a way to leave. Yeah. And he keeps like looking into space and he's like, oh, there's a spaceship. And he's like, oh shit, no, maybe there isn't a spaceship. Or he's like, oh, I hear something. And he's like, oh, maybe I didn't hear anything. And that's where you said Martian Manhunter. Basically, Lois has been lying. She's not on the phone with Perry. She's on the phone with Batman.
Hey, fans.
The entire Justice League and all of the heroes have basically decided
this is that Tarantino shit.
They are going to fight off the entire Kund invasion without Superman so that he can be there and, you know, see how much people appreciate him. So it's basically, that's their gift.
He can barely see it because he's so busy trying to fuck off.
Well, I mean, that's true. But
Superman's kind of a dick.
Well, no, he's just,
he can't even like sit still.
Superman never made any money.
Saving the world from Solomon Grundy. Yeah.
But he just like, he can't even just like be graceful with people trying to appreciate him.
I mean, you're a little right there, but also he's trying to weigh where he does the most good. And does he do the most good, like having people give him like awards or things like that, or fighting an alien invasion? But essentially, the story is about how
clearly wasn't needed.
The story is about how the heroes of the world, who are also fans of Superman, basically give him this gift that he should know how appreciated he is.
It's called a day off.
Yeah, I don't know why you're being snarky about it. You're the. I don't get it.
It's Superman.
Yeah. So that was another story.
It's just kind of okay.
That story was written by Dan Jurgens, who wrote like a long run of Superman comics, and it's one of my favorites in this whole issue.
But he jerks off all over those things.
That can't be what he calls it.
No.
Let's talk about other stories from this. Are there any others that stood out for you, good or bad?
The one right at the end where Superman gets stabbed through the chest.
Okay. So this is the
penultimate like
big fan of that
story of
it's the ultimate. It's the last one.
Sorry, yes.
So this is the first
true denouement.
This is the first story of Bendis's run on Action Comics. We were introduced to a villain called Rogol Zar, and Colin, tell us what's happening.
Beats a shit out of Superman.
He sure does.
There's some talk about why Superman wears underwear on the outside of his pants.
Well, there's
you're real focused on that one.
There's some civilians.
So were the ladies.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going.
They really liked his eyes too.
Yep. Sort of tangential to the plot of the story.
Up here. And he just kind of gets his shit thrown around real hard by this guy.
Yeah. But what's the big reveal of the? It's like pulling fucking teeth.
I know.
Oh, the big reveal is he gets stabbed through the chest and then it says the end.
There's
okay. Richard, why don't you take this one?
Richard, I do all the heavy lifting around here.
You in this podcast, you do all the heavy lifting. The big reveal is that it's a new origin story for Superman. The fact is that like Krypton didn't explode based on like the original things, which was like I think his Kal-El's dad basically was complaining forever that there was like all of these environmental issues that were eventually going to make the planet explode, and then it eventually did. This new villain is basically saying he was the reason why Krypton is no more.
And
Kal-El's dad. Or the Superman.
Well, he actually also makes mention that he worked with his dad at one point. Well, he said there's a connection. He says that he promised him that there would be no Kryptonians left.
Yeah. Basically, this villain, Rogol Zar, says that he is the one that destroyed Krypton.
Yes.
And he is there to wipe out what he calls the Kryptonian plague.
Yeah.
So he's fighting Supergirl and Superman in this comic. Superman gets knocked down pretty hard and he's unconscious for a bit. And 2 civilians are commenting on his physique and how he's beautiful and how he's wearing the red trunks again, which was a big thing. But yeah, this little story ends with him being stabbed through the chest with a big like flaming sword, and Rogol Zar saying that he's here to finish the job and like rid the galaxy of Kryptonians.
Which is awesome. I think he's a great villain. I'm so curious to know like where he came from. Is he like what's his connection to like to Kal-El's dad? What the fuck's his name?
Jor-El.
Jor-El. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jor-El. I'm excited to know that like he's like how like where else is he gonna go? If is Superman dead now? Like what? Like there's so many questions that and like he just like flippantly like makes that comment that he was the reason that Krypton was destroyed. But like is he just saying that to like get a rise out of him? Like
yeah, this is the thing. Like how deep does this go? So yeah, I suspect that the coming issues of Superman in Action Comics will be relatively exposition heavy because there's a lot of explaining to do. But yeah,
Bendis, you got some explaining
to do. Yeah, I Love Lucy.
So now, what were some of your favorite issues in this? I mean, there are stories within this.
Right. So I really like that Dan Jurgens one that we talked about, which is the one where there's Superman Appreciation Day. I think it's a really like lovely sort of, it's a meta appreciation of the character because Wonder Woman says, don't worry, like we covered the alien invasion because we're also fans. We wouldn't be here without you.
Exactly.
Which is, the meta commentary, because if Superman wasn't successful as a character in like real life, then that whole sort of wave of superhero comics might not have existed.
Yeah.
Because it was all people trying to replicate that success, basically.
It's a real jerk fest.
It's when you knew that they were going to do this sort of 80th like anniversary thing. This is what you would expect.
Yes, precisely.
Especially Justice League at the end, and like
and yeah, exactly. And I think that's
it's like a surprise birthday party for him. Basically,
that's what I like about that one. There's I like
what I said.
I like Jeff Johns' story, which is very short. It's called The Car.
I love The Car is my favorite one.
So The Car is a reference to the original cover of Action Comics #1, which is Superman smashing a green car and like bad guys
such a good
away.
idea.
And in this comic, it's the car like in the shop, and the guy's like, "What happened? You like hit a moose or something?" He's like, "No, I hit a guy in like red trunks." And he's like, "Okay, like lay off the sauce, buddy." And then Superman catches up with this guy and says, kind of similar to the message from the Dan Jurgens story, says, I know you're a crook, but I also think you can do better. I know you came from like a tough life. It's up to you to decide
somehow
what you want to do.
Somehow like Superman turns into like Santa Claus where he knows everything about.
Well, he said he says like I did some digging.
Yeah.
So
he's a reporter
as Clark Kent. Yeah.
The artwork in this is the most beautiful in the entire book.
It is. It's very. It's like a painting.
Olivier Coipel, which I don't even know this artist.
Yeah, it's a beautiful short story, and the art is really something.
It's the best, I think, in the whole thing. There's definitely some hits and misses for art in this, but I think that one, without a doubt, my favorite.
I think that the art in just a single line that you guys have negated to mention right at the end there, where he says to this guy, he's talking about his life. He's like, you can fix it or you can let it go to the junker. And I was like, because that hits on two levels. Because that's pretty much what the guy at the auto body shop said, and it was like, of course that's going to hit home with this guy. Yeah, and I still have my issues with Superman, but that was a good one.
That was a good one, right?
Well, and you liked the last panel of that, which is so. When Superman is talking to this guy, he's saying, like, I looked into your life. I know you lived in this tough neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, 45th. We used to, like, go and, like, play in the street, and it was so hot and whatever. And the last panel of this is you can tell this guy is going to try and turn his life around because he opens up a fire hydrant for the kids playing in
exactly. Yeah, it shows that he had done it. I like the part where he was saying that he was like, he's like, your dad died in the war, and you had to take care of your mom when you were only, and the guy's like 13.
Yeah.
And it was so well done. Like
both that and the Dan Jurgens story really like emphasize that Superman's belief that people can improve themselves, that they can sort of raise themselves out of their situations.
Except for one man.
Himself.
Superman.
Right.
What a letdown.
There were some really interesting Lex Luthor stories within this.
So we talked about the planetarium one, but
the fifth season, which I think like we didn't even talk about
that's Scott Snyder.
That's my favorite type of storytelling for Superman, is that sort of like looking back on Smallville and his life there and things like that. I mean, that's in Superman for all seasons, but
totally.
Yeah. But like, and talking, it's like, oh, there's a fifth season in Smallville. It happens after winter, before spring. Oh God, it's very sort of
well, and in that story, Luthor talks about how that was when like his dad would beat him the worst and things like that. So his retreat was to science, which is that whole thing about trying to make the laser, and I think that's why that moment means so much to Luthor and why it would change his mind about erasing Superman from existence.
Exactly.
I don't think you get to the point where you're willing to like cut someone out of reality and then change your mind unless there's unless that the moment that sort of that turning point is something really significant, and because it's tied to the fifth season, because it's tied to his memories of childhood, because it's tied to him feeling that he was lucky to be alive at all. I think
the soundtrack song of A Moment Like This.
Weird choice. The other Lex Luthor story is them meeting to play chess on the roof of Lex Corp.
So I did not like this story. I thought the ending was really stupid.
It's just that they're playing chess. Superman beats him, and then Lex tries to cheat and like wraps him in kryptonite chains, but Superman knows that Lex would do that, and so he had Mr. Miracle loan him a mother box that basically protected him from the radiation. And
it's just that just pisses me off, because it's just like, one, you always know Lex is going to use kryptonite, or anyone. Why doesn't he just always have a mother box and everything's fine? Kryptonite's never an issue. Superman's the most powerful.
I agree that this wasn't one of my favorite like written stories, but I still think it says something about Superman that he is ready for the worst in Lex, but he goes to play just a game with him anyway because he's hoping for better. And that's still that same message about Superman.
Do you know what the definition behind insanity is, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could
Superman.
You could certainly make that
do the same thing over and over again, expecting a change.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. I think you could probably make that argument.
I'd love to talk about Action Land. I think this is like a little bit polarizing of an issue.
That was a fun one. I liked
it was
that one a lot.
It was weird. I didn't like it. I know what they were doing, and it's sort of like this really nice ode to sort of like 60s futurism, which I like. I like that idea. But
why don't we go through it? What is the story of Action Land?
So the story of it is basically that there's this amusement park where this one ride goes through the entire history of Superman's like life and career,
right?
Which is, I mean, it's an interesting concept and the artwork's interesting. I just I didn't get anything out of it.
It feels like you're in like a future museum that they're going through it, but you get to a certain point. And it talks about he fought all these villains, but then there's the one villain that ended his story. And then the whole thing kind of starts like fading out of existence. Mm-hmm. And you realize that Mr. Mix's Pitlick is basically just making this whole thing up. And he's trying to find out where he fits in the story of Superman.
Exactly.
And I think he doesn't really get there in the end, but his sort of like other fifth dimensional like partner basically says like, you're a part of Superman's story, or at least that sort of like mischievous part of you is.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't wrap up super neatly, but did you like overall like this?
I didn't. I didn't. I just really didn't like it. I'm also not a big fan of Mr. Mix's Pitlick,
right.
But for me, it was just sort of boring.
Yeah. Now, Colin, you said you liked it. So what did you dig about it?
I liked it because without fully developing or finishing the story, it actually kind of like gives a bit of a foreshadow nod to what happens at the end of this package, this whole book. Because like there is something that will like end him. And
you mean like in the meta sense that then you get to the Bendis story and Superman gets a sword through his chest?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
I suppose you could look at it that way. Yeah,
I did.
True.
So yeah, you could, and I did.
What about you?
I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it, but it was in there. I think I'm with you. Mix's Pitlick isn't my favorite character.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to throw like that character in every once in a while. He's a part of Superman's history. He's a big part of the Silver Age. So of course you throw him in there, but, I liked what they did with Mr. Mix's Pitlick in the Superman Reborn sort of tale, and like leading into the Oz effect that he had been like captured by Jor-El, and he thought he was Clark Kent for a while. Like, it kind of drove Mixes Pitlick insane, the events of that story.
I also really did not like the way they drew him.
I mean, that's how he looked for a long time.
It's just this like Mad Hatter sort of vibe, and it makes a lot of like the stories about him seem like that guy.
I mean, they were always silly, right?
Yeah.
But
I'd say zany.
a story that I
silly,
liked
more zany,
that we haven't talked about is the one that the second story in the book that immediately follows the Dan Jurgens, as you call it, the surprise birthday party. It's one where it's Superman is trapped in multiple versions of history by Vandal Savage, who has found a way to weaponize hypertime.
Yeah.
And so they use that as a means of like basically showing Superman through the ages. They put him in his like 30s look, and Superman says like, oh, it's weird. Like in this reality, like I have fewer powers, and
they actually use that artwork as well.
Yeah. The art style shifts.
So I believe that like they have like, Kurt Swan's artwork is in there. Is this one an enemy within, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they actually take like, I mean, it's an ode to a lot of like Silver Age artists who have died, and so they're using that as like sort of like giving them an ode to the artwork that had gone before.
I like this story, and there's lots of like you say, there's like nods to artwork. There's a nod to Frank Miller. There's one shot of like a lightning bolt zapping Superman. It's that thing from Dark Knight Returns where the nuke explodes and his body is all like kind of withered and stuff. But yeah, they go through the 30s and like the war era and the Silver Age where he's on that like other planet with like the Lilliputian kind of people that have like tied him down. And
those guys are neat. I like their feet. Like suction cups.
Yes. Yeah, you did remark on that, actually. You did really enjoy the design of those aliens.
I like the artwork of that one. Yeah. Like, the whole thing is like really, really cool. And the crossover between different styles and different...
It's cool to see the artwork through the ages.
And the ultimate lesson in there is that Vandal Savage thought that by putting him in an infinite loop of alternate histories where he would watch the people that he loved be in danger, that would drive him insane or break him. But it gives Superman the motivation and the power to escape hypertime and defeat Savage. So it's about like what drives Superman. He talks about letting fear motivate you into action instead of paralyzing you. I like that story a lot.
It's awesome.
But yeah, in general, I thought this was a really like strong like celebration of Superman.
It's a great kickoff for Bendis.
Yes.
I think like it definitely like piques my interest. It doesn't do anything super weird that you're like, oh God, like he really is trying to swing it for left field. But it's like a thing that will make you go, what's the next issue? I want to read it, which is, I mean, it's hard to do with Superman. Like, I mean 1,000 issues, like 80 years. It's tough to do.
And that's just Action Comics, not never mind all the issues of Superman, Adventures of Superman, Man of Steel, like all of these other things.
To do something different, I think is commendable, and it's exciting.
Yeah. Now, I hesitate to even ask, but because I know your feelings on Superman as a character, but having read a bunch of like different takes on the character and his history kind of all at once, Colin, did you get anything maybe new out of it? Did you, like, I don't want to put the pressure on you to say like I really appreciate Superman now, but do you feel like maybe you took something different away from it from what you thought of the character before?
Honestly, not entirely. I think that Superman, in the eyes of both fans and people like me, who aren't like overly fond
non-fans,
of him, like he's supposed to be this, great guy, all-American, blah blah blah, gives everyone the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. For me, this was more of I enjoyed the artwork. Sure, I'm always a big fan of the artwork that comes out in a lot of these things, and but yeah, no, I don't think that I really took too much more out of it than just like, yeah, there he is doing his good guy thing again.
Maybe like the character of Superman aside, did seeing like the homages to artwork or styles of comics from like decades gone by, was there any part of you that was like, I'd be interested in reading a different comic from the 30s that wasn't Superman because of things totally, like the car or that Vandal Savage story, or
just different styles of artwork from those periods?
I think like, for me, this solidified an opinion that I had about Superman that I think I hadn't put to words until reading this, which is Superman is a proving ground for good writing in comic books, because the reality is I mean, you're given, instead of like given all of these very tight parameters, you're given someone who has everything, all of the abilities, and so you can basically do anything. But I mean, that in itself makes it very easy just to write a crappy book, because what do you do with someone who could do anything, could beat anybody?
What do you give to the man who has everything?
Well, that's the reality, right? And so like that's when it really has to rely on solid writing, because I mean, Batman is a guy who has to prove everything because he has no superpowers.
Yeah.
So it's easy to write.
And you have
that character.
you have a couple of limits there. He's like driven by grief, he won't kill.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go from there.
Whereas Superman's a super good guy.
Yeah.
He's an alien who can basically beat anybody, and there's one small thing that can hurt him, but it's pretty easy to fix that issue. So I feel like that's really where you find where the great writing is, and that's again why my favorite writing has nothing to do with him fighting people ever.
Sure, yeah.
Like there's a great I can't remember what the story was, but there's a great story within this where they just focus on like 5 minutes where they focus on him as a journalist.
We didn't even talk about that
and
story.
It's just an ode to like his career as a journalist, and like it's clearly a love letter to that profession. And I think like those are the types of stories that I really enjoy, because it's less about like he can beat anybody, more of just like he's this alien who has this human morality, and like how does he wrestle with that while knowing he can destroy anybody, has to be constantly like thinking and like pulling back.
I want to mention one more story that we didn't talk about. It's a very short one.
It's about the Son of God.
Yeah. I have some literature. So Superman is flying, and he's saying, "I'm not going to make it."
Yeah.
And he's flying towards basically like a hostage situation. This guy is holding a gun to a woman's head, and Superman is saying like, "I know the distance. I know my top speed. I know how fast this gun fires. I'm not going to make it." And what's interesting about this story is that in the story, the woman, in the moment right before the guy pulls the trigger, she like leans into the gun. It's like kind of like a move of like action, of like courage. And what it does is it like slightly alters the angle, and it buys like a femtosecond or something like that. And then Superman is able to catch the bullet. So basically Superman only saves the day because of an ordinary
human's actions
and courage. And he acknowledges that. And I think it's interesting to show that A, Superman has limits, and B, that he is equally inspired by people, that he's the one that everyone's like, "Oh, I wish I could be like Superman." The fireman in that first story says, "I ran in there into that burning building because it's what Superman would do." But then you get the flip end on this one, that like Superman is inspired to do his own heroics because ordinary people will also step up in the moment, or they won't like bow to their own fear or things like that. So I like that. I like what that puts in perspective, that particular story.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up quite nicely.
Yeah. It was a huge issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right.
Now on to the doctor's prescribed reading.
Nope. That was what we did.
That was this.
Now on to questions.
There it is.
After these messages.
Oh, yeah. I guess we can do that there.
No, I think we can go forward.
Oh, you think it's been 4 weeks and I just forgot about your zany hijinks?
Dr. DC, we'll be right back after this quick break.
God damn it!
Welcome to Watto's shop for Great Lakes Grooming Co. Oh, a Jedi. Very nice. We have many great products that we'd like to show you today. We got the beard oil with many different scents. You think you're some kind of a Jedi waving your hands around like that? What about that beard? You must take care of it. Pine tar soap, wonderful. Make your stinky Jedi body very nice. Yes, Great Lakes Grooming is meant to be easy and ready to use. Whether you're on the sand planet of Tatooine or the ice planet of Hoth, it is always ready to use. All their products are purposely designed and environmentally responsible. handmade in Naboo. Hey, for you lucky listeners, we've got a wonderful deal today. You can get 10% off, but remember, no money, no parts, no deal. All you have to do is go to www.greatlakesgrooming.com and use the promo code TRDCPodcast. www.greatlakesgrooming.com. 50-50. You get the boy, I get the money. Now back to the show.
Well, we're heading over to Facebook.
We're back.
We're back.
Facebook. There's been a data breach.
So all of these questions are ones you didn't send us, but we know that you were thinking of asking.
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
The damn Soviets sent them.
Yeah.
They've taken over all the accounts. Telek Zed Rogan. See? Do we say Zed or Z?
It's Zed. It's Canada, yeah.
Okay. Telek Zed Rogan asks, as someone who has never read Superman comics, what are up to 10 essential reads to really flesh out Superman's story? Comics or graphic novels or anything?
I really like this question, of course. Although it is difficult in its own way to try and like narrow 80 years and thousands of issues of comic books down to a couple of essential things.
That's why
here we go.
That's why she came to the doctor first.
Luckily, there are decades of garbage Superman comics, so it helps to narrow it down. Yeah, I mean, I think some of these are probably ones that you'll maybe also mention, Richard. But
Yeah.
I'll start, and then if you like want to jump in, or if I'm missing something, then we can kind of tag team it a bit, because I know you have a couple of Superman stories you really love.
Back again.
One that I'm going to mention that I know that I've said before is Superman Annual number 11. It's an Alan Moore story called For the Man Who Has Everything. And in that story, basically it's Superman's birthday, and the villain Mongol shows up and traps Superman in a plant called the Black Mercy that basically feeds him like a psychic vision of his perfect world where he lives on Krypton and his dad is still alive and everything's still fine. And basically in the course of that story, in order to escape the Black Mercy and defeat Mongol, he has to watch his like possible child, his perfect life on Krypton explode. And it's very heartbreaking. It's a really good like character moment, and you see like the loss that Superman kind of suffers, even though it was imaginary, it was real to him. And it's the only adapted piece of Alan Moore's work that he ever liked. There's an episode of the Justice League animated cartoon where they adapt For the Man Who Has Everything, and it's the only time Alan Moore said anyone got his work right. So either read Superman Annual number 11 or find that episode. I think either way, you get the real sense of what it's doing with the character there. That's one that I'd mention. I'm going to talk about Superman Red Sun. That's the one where
Great.
It's an Elseworld story where he, instead of crash landing in Kansas, he crash lands in, I think, like occupied Ukraine. And so he is raised under oh god. So he's raised under Soviet rule. He's not evil, but he believes in the Soviet cause, in communism and things like that.
Oh my goodness, it's Uncle Ukrainian Popeye.
Ukrainian Pa Kent. I almost said with great power comes great responsibility, but that's not it.
No.
Different podcast. But in that one, Superman becomes basically like a tyrant in spite of himself. He thinks he's doing good, but because he's been raised under this totalitarian system, he isn't. Lex Luthor saves the day as president of the United States. That's a really good story as well, because it shows a Superman who's been led astray, but is still fundamentally good in his core. And I think that is that's an interesting sort of point. Obviously, I think I'd mention Action Comics number 1. It's the very first appearance of Superman. Now, that's a hard thing to get your hands on physically, because it costs like $4 million. But digitally...
I'm sorry, what?
The first appearance of Superman? It costs like millions of dollars when they go on sale. Like when someone sells them like at auction or things like that. Because they're super rare. Because in the 30s, comics were like... they were like rags, like kids read them and like threw them around in the street. So the finding one that's like intact at all is a challenge.
So you're telling me that somebody just like put one of those in like a vacuum sealed bag? I don't know how I feel about that. There's
Is that like the whole collector thing?
Yeah, I like that makes me sad. Like there's a kid out there somewhere that could have really enjoyed that, but instead now there's a guy who spent $4 million on a comic book.
I mean, true, but I mean, at the point where it's worth $4 million, it's not really for kids anymore, is it? What I was about to say, though,
Isn't that the point, though, from the beginning, is for kids?
Yes, but what I was about to say is that story is available digitally. And I have like a reprint version that's worth like $30 of Action Comics #1. But in that story, you see like the seeds of a bunch of important things that never changed. The fact that he's sent away as a baby from Krypton and Krypton explodes, that Ma and Pa can't find him and adopt him, that he's raised to be good. One thing that I find really interesting in Action Comics #1 is that Pa Kent says, like basically tells Clark that he should hide his powers, that people will be afraid of him, which is like a big thing that people criticize about Man of Steel in that movie, that like Pa Kent is like weirdly kind of, he's not telling him to be a superhero, that he's saying like, maybe you should just like hide it because you'll scare people. But that's in the very first issue of Superman. That's like kind of woven into his backstory. So I would definitely, it's the first appearance of Lois Lane. And she is, even in that first issue, she is feisty and independent. And for a comic in the 30s, I think that's impressive. You know, I mean, obviously she's the damsel in distress. She needs to be like saved and things like that. But I think given the era, that's a radically strong female character. And she's continued to be since then. I might toss this one over to you, Richard, because you're a Superman for All Seasons guy, right?
You know I am, right? You get Lemire. Sorry, not Lemire. Sorry, you get Loeb. Like anything that man does is amazing.
I think he had just finished Long Halloween, and then he did Superman for All Seasons. So
right after,
or something like that. But for the people at home, do you want to take them through what that story is?
Absolutely. So it's basically like reconnecting the tale of like Superman's early years, like sort of growing up in Smallville, and it's narrated by like Clark Kent, as well as Pa Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, and Lana Lang.
You just call him Lex Luthor?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
That's a Freudian slip.
Yeah. And it's more of like a tale about like growing up and maturity and like accepting his place in the world, and it's more of like a walkthrough of him becoming who he would eventually be.
And in each of the 4 issues is like a season. So
yeah,
you're kind of going through like the course of a year, but also the course of his life.
Yeah, you don't get the 5th season, unfortunately.
No, that comes in Action Comics 1000. Yeah.
The show actually took like a ton of inspiration from this too.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just it's one of the most beautiful comic books I've ever seen. Like, I think that it's really like the best work that Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb have done together, and at least for DC. And it's honestly, it's my favorite parts of Superman. It's less about the like fighting guys and it's more about sort of like, how does he like overcome the fact that he's this like invincible, all-powerful creature, and yet he's from Earth parents and has this connections to human beings, and so and understanding that like his responsibility as the superhero. It's just amazing. It's definitely, I mean, I could go on, and we'll definitely have to have Colin read this at some point.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to mention sort of 2 things at once because they're both basically homages to Superman that also imagine the end of his story. So one of them is All-Star Superman, which is by Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
And the other one is a story called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is by Alan Moore. And that one appeared in both Action Comics and Superman. So the All-Star Superman is a Grant Morrison story that's like an Elseworld. It's not the main continuity, but it's basically like a love letter to Superman and specifically the Silver Age of Superman. He discovers that he's absorbed too much solar radiation and he's going to die. And it's about him using his last days. But it sort of revels in like the weirdness and the preposterous sort of stuff from the Silver Age. Like he is forging little like suns in a giant anvil in the Fortress of Solitude and feeding them to a sun eater. And he gives Lois his powers for a little bit so they can fly to the moon. She can see what it's like to be him.
Yeah.
He helps like Lex sort of discover like the meaning of the universe and things like that. It's a really like beautiful story. And he dies at the end. That's the end of Superman in that world. The Alan Moore one is it's from Action Comics 5 something, like 500 and something, 583, and Superman 423. And that 420, man. And that one is basically, it's considered the end of the pre-crisis Superman. And it's sort of it imagines Superman's last days. It kind of looks back a little bit, I think, from maybe 10 years after Superman's death. And it sort of goes, it's a love letter to the Silver Age Superman. And that one's by Alan Moore. It's very, very good story. I'll end this list with, you said, Richard, the thing you like about Superman for All Seasons is that it's not about him punching.
Yeah.
There's one particular issue, one particular moment that really stands out to me. It's from Superman 701. And it's part of a wider story called Superman Grounded, where he tries to get back in touch with like humanity. And that story in general isn't necessarily the best. But in that issue, there's a woman who's like a jumper. She's on a ledge. Mm-hmm. And the cops are like, can you like fly up there and get her down? And Superman says, I'll talk to her. And he flies up. And she says, like, I know why you're here. It's because you are going to bring me back down there because you're stronger than me and I can't do anything to stop you. And Superman says, no, I'm here to talk. And she says, I've heard that if you make a promise, you won't break it. Is that true? He says, yes. She says, then promise me that if I choose to jump, you won't stop me and you won't catch me. Mm-hmm. And if you do promise that, then we can talk. And Superman says, okay. And he just stays there with her. And they talk for a bit. And then she says, I don't want to talk anymore. I have too much going on. And he says, I'm going to stay here until you're ready to talk again. And you see like day turn to night, turn to day again. And he just waits there and he's just patient with her. And she's processing her own troubles and griefs. And Superman is basically, he says, if you honestly believe that that you're at the end of your happy days and you step off this ledge, I'll let you go. But if you think that there's even a chance that there's another happy day out there, then take my hand. And she ultimately decides to do that. But I think there's something so...
Ultimately decides to do what?
Sorry, to take his hand.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a cliffhanger. But I think there's something really like beautiful in... He's the most powerful man in the world. And he's acquiescing to like the free will of someone else. And like, there's nothing more Superman than that. He could easily just take over if he wanted.
Well, apparently
it's that respect for each
red
person.
Underwear is the most Superman thing.
Well, yeah, we can get to that. But I just love that moment. I think it's like a really like sort of beautiful bit of Superman. So
I think like most of those stories are probably in my top 25 at least. Yeah. There's one that occurred to me kind of halfway through your list, which I'm sure is probably in your top stories at least, is Superman Up and Away.
Oh yeah.
So after a fight with Superboy Prime, I believe, Superman loses his powers. Mm-hmm. So and this whole story is basically about what happened. What would Clark Kent's life be without having these powers? And so you see him like like now he actually gets to use his like journalistic abilities to fight crime and to try to like stop Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he still stands up to Lex Luthor. He's not his powers. Yeah.
No, but and like instead of like getting like shit on by the editor, he like is suddenly praised, and like his relationship with Lois Lane is
he's not running away all the time.
No, it's you get this super healthy relationship, and it gives sort of this the story as a nice center as like Lois understands how important her husband is to the world, and sort of her selflessness is what drives Clark to be the hero he's meant to be. And then it's interesting too because then you see Lex Luthor finally having the opportunity to go for the power that he wants.
Yeah,
and then Clark realizing that once he finally gets his power back, that he has like as much as he wants to hold on to this life that he's built, he obviously needs to step into the limelight again and like take back everything that has been sort of ruined. It's a real. I mean, again, these are always going to be my favorite stories.
Yeah, totally.
Because I think that's what makes Superman so important. Is like it shouldn't be about destruction and like these huge fights, which they're cool, but it's like, I mean, comics can also be about good storytelling, and I think like you give somebody a comic book of the most powerful hero, and you get some of the best told stories, and I think that's a really interesting dynamic and juxtaposition. So
definitely. So Telek, hopefully those are some good starting points.
Yeah, and I think those are good stories for anybody who's trying to understand who Superman is a little bit more. Because I mean, I think we've all seen the sort of like punchy, flyy version of it, right? But this is sort of, I think a lot of these issues.
If you want to get to the core of the character, I think these are all good examples.
Yeah.
It's a really subtle way of you guys telling me I should read these. I'm not appreciating it.
It's okay. We'll just.
It's not subtle at all. She asked what she should read.
Yeah.
Wow. His like, well, for anybody.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Next question, Chad Bokelman.
Bogle.
Oh boy, let's talk super stunts. Break down your top 5 favorite zany things Superman did with his powers before things got more, air quotes, realistic.
I have a couple from comics and a couple from movies because there's some zany Superman shit.
Definitely.
I don't know what comic this is from, but there's the Silver Age comic, and the panel, if you just type in Superman pulling planets, you'll see this image of him pulling planets on like a giant, like cartoonishly large chain, like as if it was like a bathtub drain. Like each planet is like a link in that chain. But what he's saying in his
like anal beads.
Sure, Superman's pulling anal beads and they're planets. Why?
You said like a bathtub drain. Who has a bathtub drain that's like...
Well, but I'm just trying to make or like a string of pearls.
Not making
That's not
it
better.
any
Yeah,
better.
never mind.
Like leading right back to what I said.
What I find hilarious in that panel, though, is not only is he flying through space and pulling like a crazy number of planets, what he says in the dialogue box is, I'm pulling these planets from their dying galaxy to a new home, which means he's pulling every habitable planet from a full galaxy. That's like billions of worlds. And he's pulling them like they're nothing. He's just talking. He's not even grunting. Like he's just doing it. And I think that sort of shows off like how crazy powerful the Silver Age Superman was. Like the only thing that could stop him was plot device. Like he was literally all powerful.
Well, also in space, everything weighs nothing though. So you just have to have momentum.
Well, but you'd still be fighting the inertia of like planetary orbit and things like that. Yeah, and gravity and like all of those other forces.
There's no gravity in space.
Sorry?
0 G's, bro.
At Neil Tyson. Get after Colin, man. He thinks there's no gravity in space.
So happy I'm not on Twitter anymore.
Yeah, you'd be catching shit from Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson would light my shit up.
So that's one. I don't know what issue that's from, but I really like that one. There's another one. I think it's from Superman 125, where he temporarily gets the ability to shoot a tiny version of him out of his hand. And that version of him has all of his powers. And then I think in the context of that story, he gets jealous that the mini version of him has his powers, and he basically like kills the mini one with kryptonite and gets his powers back or some shit like that. That's a pretty fucking weird story. And that's from the 50s or 60s. It's suitably Silver Age. But yeah, he would just like hold his hand out and this mini Superman would come out and be like, I have all of his powers. That's how I hear it in my head.
Well, obviously.
He must have a tiny
That's
voice.
what his regular voice sounds like. So yeah, it's pretty accurate.
There's one, I'm going to get the issue number wrong. It's either Action Comics 592 and 93 or it's 593 and 94. But there's a story where there's this villain called Sleaze and he basically like super hypnotizes Superman and tries to make him make a sex tape with Big Barda. And then later in the issue, Darkseid shows up at Mr. Miracle's house to show him the tape. It's like, but basically, yeah, this character Sleaze is trying to make a Superman sex tape. I know that's not really what Chad is asking because it's not a super ability.
No.
But it's a weird story. I think we can agree. That's a weird moment for Superman.
Yeah, a little bit.
Getting hypnotized into making a sex tape. It's very off-brand. There's some powers that Superman claimed to have in Silver Age stories that weren't really powers. They were just like him doing other things. He claims at one point that he has super weaving and he makes a wedding gown at incredible speed. But that's just super speed and knowing how to weave. Like, he's not just better at weave. It's not super weaving. He's just weaving super quickly. Some of the ones from movies that I wanted to talk about, though. Colin, did you ever watch any of like the original Superman films, or is that like a equally don't know them? Right. So in Superman 2, there's two moments. There's one where he's fighting.
Like, are we talking about the one, the guy that fell off the horse? What's his name?
Christopher Reeve. Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't see any of those.
So in Superman 2, he's fighting General Zod and two other Kryptonians in the Fortress of Solitude, and he defeats Non, this big Kryptonian, by basically throwing like a cellophane version of his like symbol at him. He like just rips it off his chest and throws it, and it looks like cellophane, and it wraps Non up, and he falls down, and then it disappears. That's like not a power that he's ever had before or since. And we don't even fully know what it means in the context of that movie. Like, did it depower Non, or what was it just like, did it just stun him?
Well, I think the real question is, when did Silence of the Lambs come out? And when did that movie come out?
Why is that related?
Well, there's that scene in the jail.
That's not the same. That is not the same.
Saying both of them got pretty weird about it after that happened.
This got pretty weird. The other one in Superman 2 is Lois finds out that Clark is Superman, and then he amnesia kisses her.
That's right. And she forgets,
which is like, the amnesia kiss isn't a Superman power from the comics, but he did have a super kiss where he like stunned Lois, and that's in a comic. I can't remember what issue, but there is something about Superman's kiss that does something, either stuns you or gives you amnesia.
That's friggin' creepy,
right?
Just add another layer of why I do not care for Superman.
I mean, in fairness, that's not a regular power of Superman's.
It's like Bronze Age or something too, isn't it? Like,
no, it's that's like an old Superman comic where he super kisses Lois.
Yeah.
Superman.
Actually, in the comic, it's creepy too, because there's two guys in the background, and one of them's like, "Gee, where'd Clark learn how to smooch like that?" Or like whatever. It's like, who are you guys? And then the last one that I want... Oh, sorry. Two other ones. Superman 4, which is a terrible movie that was made on a super low budget. But there's a scene where the Great Wall of China gets kind of destroyed, and Superman, instead of super speed rebuilding it, he just looks at it and it rebuilds itself. He basically gets like masonry vision. And the Great Wall of China rebuilds itself. I think what it's meant to be is like telekinesis, but it doesn't like read that way in the movie. It just looks like he's just staring at the wall and stones appear. So that's a pretty stupid power. And I'll just end with a relatively recent one. In Superman Doomed #1, he actually rips Doomsday in half. And I think that's maybe one of the craziest feats that Superman's ever done, because he's incredibly strong, and as we know, Doomsday is the character that killed him in the 90s. Also impossibly strong. But in Superman Doomed, almost without effort, which I think shows that he wasn't restraining himself anymore, he rips the monster completely in half, which is kind of crazy.
And my personal favorite is the one where Superman has the ability to both have and have not a mustache in a film.
Oh God, yeah, we're talking about super ugly face. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You can add that to the canon of weird film Superman powers.
I also like the super ventriloquism that he has throughout the years. You kind of don't see it anymore, but like his ability to throw his voice.
That one will still come up every once in a while. Yeah, super ventriloquism is one. He's got all sorts of weird powers. Yeah, like I said, super weaving.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
He's had super shape shifting for a bit, but not anymore because that's sort of Martian Manhunter's jam.
He like baked a giant cake once, so he's a super baker.
Yeah, again, these are things where he's like technically just using speed or whatever. Yeah. Not using speed.
Clearly, he's using speed.
He's using super speed.
He's like a housewife in the 50s.
A normal thing.
Yeah,
he does. He's not like a. It's not
again
super
like
weaving.
a housewife in the 50s.
Yeah, super speed. Yeah.
Why? What?
There was a diet pill in the 50s, 40s, and 50s that housewives would take.
It's just
What?
speed.
Yeah, and it was a diet pill. But
Yeah.
it later came out that it was actually just speed.
Oh, that's
Why there's a good in the original Hairspray. There's a really funny thing where she just keeps talking. Divine keeps talking about how like her diet pills are wearing off.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that what that
Yeah,
means?
yeah,
Oh my God. I need to watch
super
Hairspray
speed.
again.
yeah.
All right.
Hilarious.
Things you don't think you'll hear someone say on a DC podcast.
Yeah.
All the things said on this one.
Yeah.
Josh Gill.
Gill.
Oh, Gill. Handsome ass Gill.
Gilly.
Says, let's talk multiversal throwdown. Lego Superman versus JLU / animated series Superman / DCEU Superman. Also, hashtag Team Trunks or hashtag Team No Trunks.
Well, let's address that second question first.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about the trunk thing.
Yeah.
How you were confused about did he not have trunks before?
He
Was
basically
there a time when he was just all blues? Like, what's going
basically
Yeah.
the new 52 from 2011 up until now, he's just been kind of blue with like a red belt as opposed to it being the full trunks.
That's dumb.
So Colin is hashtag Team Trunks.
I think it's important because he does have the cape that's red.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't jive. It just looks like you're wearing a onesie. That's stupid.
Sure.
Like, go to bed.
Right. Okay. Richard, hashtag Team Trunks or hashtag Team No Trunks?
So for me,
Just answer the question.
I gotta give some background
Charlie Rose.
information. Jeez Louise. I'm pro Trunks in the fact that it's a representation of like the original sort of superhero drawing and like artwork. Where I mean that's where the whole like wear your underwear outside of your outfit like thing came from was from Superman.
Yeah.
So I think that's like that is part of his costume and it's a piece that you can't separate it from. That being said, it's really stupid, and like I don't think it's
You don't like the look?
no. I think it's really dumb. I just don't. I don't see what the purpose of it is except for to have a red part.
So, okay. So then I just like a follow-up question to this. You think that the Trunks look doesn't look good, like it looks dumb. Do you think that they've nailed the no Trunks look, or does it still look awkward? Like you think there's a way that it works, but they just haven't gotten there yet? Because a lot of people hate the no Trunks look. Or do you like it? Do you just think it's fine? Like a movie like the DCEU Superman has no trunks, or like the new 52
which I think
Superman
works. I think that version works. It's not. I mean, the film styling is not really what I like, but
Yeah.
I think that the costume it makes sense. Like if you were gonna like, generally when they make superhero costumes, they rarely put that look into it, and I think because it's impractical.
Sure.
And also I don't know how like intrinsically it's part of the like. The icon of Superman. Like I think like with or without it, it's Superman. You take away the S, I don't know. You take away the cape, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
But like it's really the cape, the S, and a blue outfit. The red trunks can take it or leave it. That being said, it's also this thing that's had a ton of history behind it, and he was the first one to really have that. So,
I will say I actually dig the sort of new 52 and the rebirth look where he didn't have the trunks, where it was just like a blue suit with the red belt. I thought it looked fine, but I mean that classic look never bothered me, so I think I might I might be hashtag Team Trunks.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna die on that hill or anything, but like I think
I'm not the one to usually say this, but I'm team who gives a shit. I'm going Colin on this.
Colin?
Yeah.
Did we just traded roles on that one?
yeah, interesting. So then the first part of that question,
Mind you, we also had a huge big discussion earlier about James Bond, the whole like blonde brunette.
Oh my god, we're not starting this. Yeah, no.
so the first part of the question,
That's a hill I'll die on.
maybe the bigger part of the question,
We'll do it on our Agent 007 podcast.
who would win?
Double
Lego Superman, JLU or like Justice League Unlimited or the animated Superman, or DCEU Henry Cavill Superman. Who would win in a fight? I think that's what it's asking. Who would win in a fight, not just who we prefer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lego Superman for me.
Lego Superman would win in a fight. Any particular rationale?
Oh shit, I'm thinking Lego Batman. Never mind.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
Let's imagine this is a universe where you did any particular.
Let's go with the Lego Superman then.
Okay.
Who's the voice of Lego Superman?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, definitely him then.
Good casting, but
Yeah.
it's got to be JLA. I mean, animated series.
Right.
It's got to be. I mean, he's shown the most breadth of ability and the has overcome more than everybody else. So I think like one from experience, second from like proof of abilities. I think it's easier to make a case for it.
I think he's in many ways darker than the DCEU.
It's true.
Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. DCEU Superman snapped Zod's neck, but like that Justice League Unlimited cartoon,
Whatever.
The whole-
just snaps a guy's neck or whatever.
the whole premise of like a bunch of stories in
all
that
been
show
there.
is that they're not sure whether or not Superman will go too far.
Yeah.
No one actually trusts that he won't.
That's why Batman's constantly like coming up with fail-safes for it. Like
Batman isn't sure of it. The Question goes like nuts trying to prevent like Armageddon. There's a whole alternate Earth where Superman does kill President Luthor and they become the Justice Lords and they take over the world. Like that animated Superman, when what's his name? Oh shit, I'm gonna forget the character's name. When Darkseid kills the character that was like physically modeled on Jack Kirby, he goes nuts. Like Superman starts just like throwing tanks and shit. Like that Superman has a rage issue. So I think if it came to the fight to the death, he tries to lobotomize Doomsday. I think if it came to a fight to the death, or I think that one would take down the DCEU Superman actually, because he's
unhinged.
He goes to that dark place way more than the movie Superman ever did.
Okay, that's all fine and well, but do any of your Supermans have the ability of becoming 5 different pieces, 6 if you include a cape? I don't think so.
You're talking about the Lego one?
Yeah, I am.
wow, there you go. Can't beat with
Mine's
that.
much more dangerous.
And that one's a master builder too.
Yeah,
so.
that's true.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, we're just master
No.
Baiters. Josh Gill
really good at
again.
fishing.
Gill again.
Oh, Gill again.
How different would the DCU and comics in general look now had Zatara been the more popular one from Action
damn.
Comics number uno?
Yeah, so Action Comics used to be like an anthology book. There were like multiple stories with different characters in it. Superman was just one of them.
Just one.
And so in Action Comics number 1, you also get the first appearance of Giovanni Zatara, the magician.
Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah, so Zatara is later retconned as the father of Zatanna. But Zatara showed up in Action Comics number 1. Now, what would happen if that character had caught on more than Superman? I mean, that's obviously tough to say. But I think you can probably make the argument that in general, superheroes tend to feed into like a science fiction kind of mold of storytelling, especially something like Superman, where he's an alien from another world and it's about his powers and abilities. Batman is all about tech. I wonder if maybe if Zatara had been more popular, if you would have seen like the pop culture kind of shift maybe away from science fiction and more into fantasy because of the magical element, where instead of Superman sort of influencing all of these other things and possibly that spilling over into things like, does the interest in science fiction, does that lead to the creation of things like Star Trek or, like Forbidden Planet or things like all of these other kind of stories? If Zatara became that popular, then would you try and replicate magic as opposed to, something from another world or whatever.
That's really cool.
Does it bend the whole course of pop culture history more into fantasy than science fiction? Probably not. Maybe. I mean, like that's a huge what if, but I would think that at least in the genre of superheroes, that would be maybe the knock-on effect you would have seen is instead of most heroes being rooted in like a science experiment goes wrong and then you get your powers, it would be more about like, like a spirit, inhabits your body and now you can do blah, you can conjure whatever or things like that. That's my theory on that.
There's definitely one less Canada Heritage Minute.
yeah, you wouldn't have
the guy running outside with the train.
What do you call that? Oh, Superman.
So good. Yeah. Next.
I feel like almost would have been kind of an improvement.
You would have preferred something more
Well,
magic, more fantasy.
Like Richard and I have this in common. We enjoy a show called Supernatural.
You guys do love that show.
It's.
I almost thought we'd get through this episode with that.
Not a chance.
Never.
I feel like the element of storytelling when it comes to things that aren't just these like haphazard accidents.
Yeah.
So here's my take on like the whole Superman thing. Obviously, it comes from a Christian story where a little baby boy gets floated down the river in a basket.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, technically, that's
most
like a Jewish
like
story because that's
stuff.
the Old Testament. That's
Right,
Moses.
whatever. But it's all like religious based stuff. Whereas the Zatara side of it would have been less religion based and more spirituality based, which I think is like the difference.
It's like arcane forces.
It's kind of the difference between like science and like nature.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it maybe in this parallel alternate history, you would see things where like Swamp Thing was a real mainstream comic. And then in the Vertigo, like the DC Vertigo, that kind of like more artistic thing, you'd see like The Flash. That's where the science thing would go to live, because in this world, fantasy is mainstream or something like that. Yeah, who knows?
Kind of cool.
That's a very speculative kind of thing. It's fun to think about, though. That's a good question.
Definitely.
So our pal Stump Chunkman has a question on Twitter.
Step into the stump chunk.
Yep.
Have you guys been practicing?
A little.
Have you guys been meeting in secret without me?
Oh, it's not a secret.
No, we did
You
it.
just don't check your emails.
Right. Not on Twitter anymore. Has it been covered at all that if he is super smart as well, with the whole Earth's yellow sun enhancing his physical powers and whatnot?
Yeah.
Well, there is a moment of super mathematics that he's used. So
Yeah. It is covered.
When he goes running to try to save that girl from getting shot in the head with a...
no. There's actually like a moment where he uses mathematics.
Although, I mean, that's also technically it. Yeah, he's using math in that one. Super mathematics was another
She
like
is
Silver
lucky
Age
it wasn't
power.
a grim day. Doing useless.
It is addressed that Superman actually is super intelligent. He's not necessarily like a brilliant strategist or like he's not like Batman or Lex Luthor where he's like a million steps ahead, but he is very smart. I think he might have an eidetic memory because he is able to just read things at super speed and retain the information. But he is super intelligent. A great modern example of this is in the Superman Earth 1 graphic novels. That version of Clark Kent is basically sort of freely giving like scientific formulas and things like that to other people because he knows it's going to like advance society or help people or things like that. He's solving issues. He's very, very smart, scientifically speaking. That is addressed. I don't know if it's always directly because of the yellow sun thing, but if he has an eidetic memory anyway, and then it's coupled with his physical abilities, like being able to read super fast or things like that, then that combines to make him more intelligent. I don't know whether or not it's directly that yellow sun energy enhances his brain power. I'm sure there's a story where that is true. But in the context of Superman Earth 1, I'm not sure that that's the case. I think he's actually just meant to be kind of genuinely smart anyway. And then because of his physical abilities, he's able to learn more and faster than anyone else. But yeah, that's totally a thing. Superman is meant to be intelligent. All-Star Superman shows that off really well. He solves the question of the Ultra Sphinx. Like it's supposed to be this unsolvable like logic like riddle. And he solves it.
And then he goes back to his career as a janitor.
The Ultra Sphinx.
It's a Will Hunting reference.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. He's wicked smart.
How do you like these Sphinx?
Wicked smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Superman is super intelligent, but just not in that sort of like cunning, strategic way that like Batman or Lex Luthor.
Only just because I don't think
He's more like
to.
I think he's more like Mr. Terrific. I mean, Mr. Terrific is smarter.
Really
but
leans on his looks.
Yeah, it's got to be what it is.
I think you're right, though. I mean, there is an element where he sometimes relies maybe too much on his physical abilities, but then it's always when his powers get stripped away or when something's like you can't solve it by punching, then you see him.
Oh yeah, brain.
Exactly, and then he kind of goes back to basics, and he can figure things out. Yeah.
Cool.
So here's a weird one.
Sure.
That I never thought I would see.
All right.
K-Cross 202 is jumping on Twitter.
Cross 202 for life.
You probably did you finally shame him off Instagram questions?
Come back 202.
I don't know. Did you give in? Did you finally have enough ridicule? I was doing it in jest. I didn't mean to hurt you.
Yeah, well, words hurt.
Was it infinite jest?
So what's his question?
I'm sorry, K-Cross 202. I K-crossed the line.
God damn it. Nice.
The question is, how many days is it going to take before you go back
read
on
the thing.
Instagram and start asking questions again?
So you're trying to shame him back onto Instagram?
I want you to own up to this.
This is called
If you're gonna
gaslighting.
Stick to this
Yeah.
thing. You stick
This
to it.
is called gaslighting.
You stick to it.
Remember when we were trying to figure out the definition of this?
Yeah,
this is
this
it.
is what it is, yeah.
The question is, how many different colors of kryptonite are there? And how do they affect the Man of Steel? Also, why are there different colors of kryptonite?
Okay.
Great question.
It actually
The perfect platform.
and it'll actually bring up to one of the like WTF moments.
Yes, it will absolutely bring up a WTF moment. So, Colin,
No.
kryptonite is what?
Real pain in the ass for Superman, apparently.
Exactly. It's a basically an irradiated piece of his homeworld.
I feel like I'm kryptonite.
To me, or to like progress,
Or this
to,
podcast.
yeah, to like any sort of
Just saying.
yeah.
Forward moving motion.
Yeah. Yeah, so kryptonite is like an irradiated piece of the planet Krypton. And so because of that, it can affect Superman's physiology. Regular kryptonite, or like the common one that will weaken him and then ultimately kill him, is usually what color?
Green.
Yes, green, precisely. But there are other colors. Red kryptonite,
Ooh, so bad.
which, fun fact, for its first few appearances, regular kryptonite was red and then got switched to green. But then red kryptonite, which came up later, typically has it changes or like mutates Superman for like 24 hours or a couple of days or something like that. Like I have an issue. It's Action Comics number 303, and in that Superman's exposed to red kryptonite, and it turns him into like a space dragon. And he's trying to get people to know that he's Superman, but they're like, the space dragon's attacking, and he's like,
Someone get Superman.
yeah, exactly. So that's red kryptonite. There's gold kryptonite, which would permanently remove the powers of a Kryptonian. It would basically block their ability to absorb yellow sun radiation on a permanent basis. Gold kryptonite is complete depowering of a Kryptonian. But of course, you're saying, how could that possibly be? How could we know that? Because if it was ever used, he wouldn't have his powers again. That's because story. But
Because Speed Force.
but that's in there. And pretty much, yeah. Black kryptonite, I believe, splits a Kryptonian into like their good and bad selves. It gives them separate physical forms. It's kind of the effect of like what happens in Superman 3 in that film, that there's a good person and a bad person that sort of split that way. That's black kryptonite. Jewel kryptonite is, I think, synthetic, but what it does, it amplifies the psionic abilities of people trapped within the Phantom Zone.
A very specific.
I mean, there are some very specific kryptonites. There's one called magnokryptonite, which magnetically attracts things from Krypton. There's also
I like white. Just kills plant life.
oh yeah, white kryptonite kills all plant life.
What does purple kryptonite do?
Purple
Gives us prints?
There isn't a purple kryptonite, but there was very briefly a pink kryptonite. We've talked about it once before. I brought it up. It's from Supergirl number 79. They don't explicitly state it, but essentially it makes Superman gay. And I think maybe in one version,
So does the purple kryptonite.
I think there's a cartoon version in Justice League Action. Pink kryptonite actually changes Superman's gender, like physically.
Oh, really?
Like he becomes a woman, but in the comic, Superman is exposed to pink
Nice.
kryptonite, and then he starts like telling Jimmy that he looks good in bow ties, and like
That's a nice thing of him to do.
Well-
Boost up Jimmy's confidence about his bow tie.
the implication is that it made him gay.
Maybe Jimmy wasn't so certain about that bow tie.
There's blue kryptonite.
Blue kryptonite is an imperfect version of green kryptonite, so it affects imperfect Kryptonians. Specifically, that means Bizarro. That's Bizarro's kryptonite is blue kryptonite.
Yeah.
Green kryptonite, just to go back to like the one that kind of started it all, generally it only affects Kryptonians. And even though it weakens them and will kill them, and you can like still cut them and things like that, it doesn't necessarily rob them of all of their powers. You could still
Which blue does.
potentially fly under the influence of green kryptonite. You could still have like durability and things
Should
like
tell
that.
that to American airline pilots.
Oof.
Is that topical?
No, it's about 10 years old.
Yeah, okay.
That's why we can do the joke right now.
Oh, I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Also, no planes were crashed, so there's that.
Sweet. But green kryptonite has been retconned to actually affect humans. Lex Luthor ended up getting cancer because he wore this green kryptonite ring for like years and years and years and years and years, and it gave him cancer because it is ultimately radiation.
That's kryptonite with a capital C.
Okay. Oh. I caught up. I crossed the finish line.
Yeah, that's okay. We all got there.
There is one story where they say that kryptonite only affects Kryptonians because it's about like the speed of the radiation. It moves so fast that only their dense Kryptonian cells would actually catch the radiation. And Metallo tries to come up with a thing called slow kryptonite, which would then affect humans the same way that regular kryptonite affects Superman. That's not all of them, but that's as many as I can recall without
Those are the
looking at any
ones,
notes.
too,
Those are
yeah.
the main ones, and there are as many as I can think of without looking at notes. But there were always like, especially in the Silver Age, where there were like one-shot stories. They'd be like, "I made a special kind of kryptonite that will make him lose his hair," or like, "Oh, I made a special kryptonite where Superman's going to forget how to make eggs," or like, it's, like they have weird specific.
So why are there different colors?
Because I think they're different frequencies of radiation. So at their heart, they're all pieces of Krypton, I think. But I think it's just slight variations of the radiation frequency that changes how it affects Superman.
So kids, if you want to go find some irradiated rock on Earth, who knows what it'll do?
Yeah. Dash will turn off the podcast.
This just made me real sick. That's the gray Earth tonight.
Nice. Great Earth tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, and then, of course, the most famous kind of kryptonite is by Three Doors Down.
My superhuman, my anti.
I'm so happy that little kid turned off the podcast already.
Yeah.
Oof, what a relief.
All right.
Seeking Superman has a question. Multiple part question.
Well, Seeking Superman, it's right here. This is where Superman is.
Do you feel creating a new villain to kill Superman was the right decision? If not, which villain should have been given the nod?
Was this somebody like who had just recently read the?
I don't think he's talking about Rogel Zara.
Okay, I was like, meh.
Yeah.
Also, do you feel like it would have been more effective to never use Doomsday again after Superman number 75?
Yeah, I think this whole question is actually about Doomsday. So Doomsday was created for that Death of Superman arc, and he killed Superman. He's an unstoppable monster.
Good job, Doomsday.
Yeah, but his question is,
Did his job? Did it clean?
I actually just played that game on PS4
Went
yesterday.
home to
It was a
his
great
wife and
Doomsday.
kids?
Doom? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this is a question that, I mean, even Colin, like as someone that doesn't read Superman, I think you might have a narrative opinion on this. Is it a good idea or do you think it was a good idea to create a brand new villain to kill the most iconic hero, or should they have given that job to one of the established villains?
Can I answer this for Colin?
Well, I want to hear what Colin has to say first.
I just feel like I know what he's going to say.
I want to.
Two-part question, two-part answer.
I want to hear what Colin has to say.
Okay.
First, because
So
I'm interested.
My joke answer is that like I genuinely would be just doubled over in hilariousness.
I thought the answer would be, I wish it would have happened sooner.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So my first answer is always to make a joke of stuff. I genuinely think it'd be amazing if the Joker just out of nowhere was the one who killed him.
So not a Superman villain, but a different established villain.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Like right out of left field, just
That's a very Joker move too.
It is totally.
because. And the beautiful thing about that is that like that would really piss Batman off so much more.
My boyfriend.
Oh my Batman!
Yeah. Okay.
My Superman, he's gone.
Richard, your thoughts?
I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
He's got a second part.
I said two-part question.
Sorry, I thought that was the second part because he said what his joke one was, and then he said
No, the
Joker.
The Joker was the Joker.
Oh,
Because
I actually kind of think that's a neat idea.
Yeah.
that's
Why I didn't think it was the Joker.
That's why I
answer.
led with it. It's 'cause
Okay.
The funny ones are always the good ones.
Okay.
And the other side is that just like, I also would really just enjoy if he just like tripped over something and just like that's how he died.
Like if
just
it was an
really,
accident?
like really pathetic, like not a super death, just like one of those things where like, whoa, oh, okay, that's it.
Like he tripped, fell over onto like a kryptonite spike and just stabbed himself in the heart.
Why do I have this? Yeah.
Said the little kid who thought he was holding an ice cream cone.
Oh,
I killed Superman.
Jesus. Okay. I can't believe that's not your joke answer. Because your joke answer is a great legitimate answer.
Bizarro Colin?
Yeah. Richard, your thoughts? Like, do you think it's more interesting that they made a brand new sort of monster villain, or should they have given the job of killing Superman to someone that had put in the time?
I think the point is that nobody was capable.
Somebody got the nod. They're like, you earned it, kid.
Well,
Get out
I
there
think
and go get him.
had somebody been able to, they would have had done it within the first like 50, 60 years, right? Like,
Right. So you think it would have felt fake because if they hadn't done it by then,
But the long con though.
no, but I mean, they would really have to do their work to get that to make sense then. But I think you needed to come up with a sort of alien character that could actually do the job. Because at this point, like if Brainiac couldn't do it,
if you couldn't do it on the previous few attempts,
Yeah.
what's different?
exactly, right?
Right.
So for me, I think that being said, Doomsday's kind of a shitty character.
Totally, yeah.
But
Very one-dimensional.
yeah, like it's just there's not a lot of thought there. But I think Darkseid's way better. But I think you needed to create a character to be able to do it. So I think it was a good idea, and just killing Superman was a good idea because it needed a reset.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree because Doomsday, because he's so one-dimensional, he's just a monster that can only destroy and only wants to destroy Superman pretty much.
I think the idea was good. I just think
He's like
it was shitty.
He's like a force of nature, and basically they were saying like Superman has a limit. He reached it. He's dead.
Yeah.
But if I was given the reins and Doomsday wasn't an option, I think it's you got to give it to General Zod, because not only does he have such a vendetta against Superman, but then
Not Lex, eh?
well, but here's the thing: Lex sees himself as humanity's savior, and then he kills Superman, and then that's the end of his story.
He doesn't have a purpose beyond that. It's a Joker Batman
But
situation.
if General Zod does it and Superman's gone, then you still get what actually happened with the death of Superman story, which is what happens in the world post that, because General Zod doesn't
God,
stop
Death of
there.
Superman's such a good comic.
General Zod would keep going. So
Yeah.
then who steps up? Who can fight him now that Superman's out of the way? I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I other than the fact that Doomsday as a character keeps showing up, and maybe he shouldn't have kept showing up because he doesn't really have a ton going on.
But he did kill Superman.
Well, yeah, but maybe
Add
as
that to his CV.
as mentioned by
hire
Seeking
that guy.
Superman, maybe that's where that should have ended.
Yeah.
And then you don't see Doomsday anymore because he served his purpose.
Exactly.
Will we see him after this, though?
Almost certainly. We see him all the time. And frankly, I'm waiting to see him in Doomsday Clock.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
start
I
yelling,
would
like,
be surprised not to.
I'm
play
hoping that they do something interesting with
we
it.
just yell out, play the hits, and he'll be like, all right, I kill Superman again.
Yeah, right.
one more song. He's like, fuck, I already got him.
That's my only song.
Doomsday's new name is the One Hit Wonder.
Yeah. We're the Cantina Band.
Hi.
One Punch Man.
I'm One Punch Man.
Nice. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Seeking Superman.
Now we're going to go to Talking Superman.
Ooh, different verb Superman.
Different type of thing to do.
Verbing
to
Superman. What's your preferred origin of his S shield? Kryptonian symbol or made by his Earth mom?
Yeah, the original version was that Ma Kent makes a costume for him and puts an S in there, and now he's Superman. And then I think it's Superman Birthright, which actually I probably should have thrown into like Superman
top 10, yeah.
top 10 Superman stories. Superman Birthright is also like a big influence on Man of Steel, but in that story, that kind of retcons some of the origin of Superman since John Byrne's Man of Steel, which was kind of the post-crisis origin of Superman. They sort of established that idea that the S is really like the crest of the House of L, that on Krypton it means like hope and courage and things like that. That's where that idea comes from. And the movie really runs with that. Man of Steel really takes that.
Why wasn't
All the way.
it then an L on his chest?
Because that's the symbol for L.
Like
the L.
their last name is L, but like their
Alien language.
The idea is that like the Kryptonian language is all like glyphs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually not an S. It just looks like an S.
Yeah. And I mean, even in the shittily written reshoots of Justice League, they kind of touch on that where he says it means hope. It's meant to wind like a river, like it, hope kind of comes and goes, but it always comes back again.
Yeah.
And that's a shittily written scene. But even that touches on the idea that it's more representative.
So if we look at an S though, it literally comes, goes, and then leaves.
I think the idea is that if you were to keep going,
At the very bottom of it all, when you need it, it's just gone.
Sounds a lot like Colin. Comes, goes, and leaves. You have sex, and then you take a poop, and then you go.
what?
Comes, he goes, and he leaves.
That is not where I thought that was going. All right.
You got to try new things every once in a while, I guess.
That's right.
Find out where things really go.
That's the quick answer, though. I prefer the like Kryptonian glyph that means hope.
Obviously, that's the better one. It's an actual like.
I like that better than like people can call you Superman. Sewed an S
Because you're a Superman and my super little boy.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
So this next question is from CFB, and I don't know what that means.
I don't either. That was just the Twitter name
Okay, that's kind of cool.
It's the last question too.
for Twitter.
But I feel like I would like to handle this one, if that's all right with everyone. I'm going to handle this last question.
Okay, do it.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's your take on the Superman Clark Kent dynamic? Who's the real person and who's the mask? Well, it's pretty flippin' obvious because he's an alien. Kal-El, that's his name, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Superman, Kal-El, that should have been the question, is what's your take on Kal-El Clark Kent? Because the real person is actually an alien. His name's Kal-El, and the mask is very, very clearly Clark Kent. Regardless, like that's his like beard essentially. It's his cover as being a human guy who's a reporter and a blah blah blah. So that's that.
Okay, so that you've seen Kill Bill, right?
Of course,
Yeah. So
one and two.
at the end of Kill Bill Volume 2, Bill has this speech where he talks about how Clark Kent is the mask. Superman is who he really is. He gets his powers from his home planet. That's who he really is. I actually think that is completely incorrect.
What is wrong with you?
Well, no. Physically, he gets his powers from Krypton. Physically, that's who he... But who is he as a character? He was raised by the Kents. He's the person he is because of them. Clark Kent is who he is. Superman is just what his powers allow him to be.
Dude, the thing underneath is not the mask.
He puts on the glasses to blend in. That's a mask. But he's still Clark even when he's
The whole
Superman.
guise of it, him being Clark Kent, is a guise. But it's a ruse to block people from seeing who he actually is.
But my point is that it's only so people don't see he's also Superman. But Clark, he's not being ingenuine when he's being Clark Kent. Bruce Wayne, when he's being Bruce Wayne, that's like the whole thing's a show. He's pretending to enjoy a party and to flirt with a ballerina and like shit like that.
Clark Kent is being Superman.
Clark Kent is being himself. And then he just puts the glasses on so people don't say, you're also Superman. But like when he's Clark and when he's Superman, he's always being true to himself. So I think it's different. Like for Batman, Batman is the real him and Bruce Wayne is the mask. For Clark Kent, like the glasses are the mask, but Clark is still Clark. He's being himself. I actually feel that that thing from Kill Bill, that speech is entirely wrong. I think you know what I mean? Have I changed your mind?
Well, no, because we both said very
that was too
things.
much to hope for.
Yeah, come on now.
Like, and this all falls into that
hope
nature.
comes and goes.
It's like a winding river poop. But no, it's just kind of like that nature versus nurture question, right? Like, is like
When I'm saying it's nurture, I guess.
I'm not opposed to that, but what I'm saying is that like without his superpowers, he has no reason to hide those things.
I guess what I'm saying is he's not hiding as Clark Kent. He's just throwing people off the Superman scent, but he's still being him.
That's
I think,
really his true self.
And I think the further proof of that is sort of what Richard was talking about. There are these stories where he loses his powers and he's still Clark Kent and he's still sticking it to Lex Luthor. Like he doesn't stop fighting for the little guy because he doesn't have powers.
That's with the
that's
the
about
expressed hope that he's going to at some point in the story get his shit back.
I think they're implying though that he would do it anyway, that he was raised in a way to like fight for people that can't fight for themselves. Because he's Superman, he's able to do that on like a planetary scale. But I think he would do it as Clark Kent anyway. I know you just don't like believing in someone inherently good.
That's a good point.
Right?
So we have an email that came in under the wire.
Check the email.
Rhiannon asks, if a yellow sun gives Superman powers and a red sun takes them away, do other color suns do anything?
They do.
Boom.
Shakalaka.
That's it. Thank you for listening.
They do. The end. Have a great week.
So yeah,
Google it.
Kryptonians process yellow sun radiation, and that's what gives them all of their powers. A blue sun supercharges that. Krypton would be even more powerful. So if you can,
Super Saiyan.
I mean, Superman with yellow sun powers is already difficult for writers to rein in.
Could you imagine?
The blue sun is, if you throw a blue sun into a story, you're basically saying like, I just want him to be unstoppable.
What's the color of the sun in Krypton?
Red.
Red. Okay.
That's a red sun, which is why no one on Krypton has powers.
Okay. What about a black hole sun?
Won't you come? Take away
Black hole.
We've definitely made that joke before. I swear to God, we've made that joke.
Or some variation of it. Yeah.
Now, I think there's some proof to the idea that in the way that the yellow sun affects Kryptonians, that a white sun would maybe affect humans, or a blue sun would maybe affect humans. So that it's like a scale that like a Kryptonian would get even stronger, but a human would get like Kryptonian powers. There's something very like similar about the physiologies of Kryptonians and humans, which of course makes sense because Superman and Lois Lane somehow have a son, so that genetically has to work out somehow. So I think there's a way in which they're kind of related that way, so that if Kryptonian's power level steps up because of the color of a sun, then so too would a human's, but always behind, like will always be less powerful than Kryptonians. I don't know if that works the opposite way, though. I don't think a red sun makes humans weaker than we already are.
Yeah.
I think, like, once you're just at that level, that's it. But yeah, like, basically white and blue are pretty much the only other, like, colors of star, effectively.
Yeah.
There might have been a comic with a green star, but I don't remember what that one did. If anyone out there remembers, please, like, tweet at me, #GreenStarDoes, and then tell me what it is. But yeah, I think both white and blue suns magnify powers, and I think blue is at the highest level of that. It would be like red, yellow, white, blue on your way up. Yeah.
Nice. Those are some great questions.
That was, I know, Colin, that
This is a sore spot for you.
I know that you hate Superman.
Yep.
But
Can't stand him.
But I appreciate that you read all of Action Comics 1000.
Most of it, yeah.
And I think you still got something out of it, even if it was
There's
just
some intrinsic value,
an appreciation of the art. I think these were great questions. I love, like asking about the kryptonite or the suns or, how smart he is or all of that kind of stuff. These were like really, really great.
Do you think that there's a way that you could enjoy Superman? Like, is there a take on it that would make it more?
That's a great question. Colin, what is the version of Superman that would actually not piss you off? What's it getting wrong?
It's not that he pisses me off. It's just that it's like he's got that. How do I explain this correctly? To me, Superman is all the things that are genuinely wrong with the way that we look at a situation, where we would like the ideal thing to happen without really having to put in any of the work. So when I see a character like Superman who's just like has all the natural stuff that he needs to do this everything all the time, it's just a Deus Ex Machina piece that I cannot deal with. And so when I see, a character like Bruce Wayne,
it cheapens
it cheapens it entirely. So the reality is that even though there are some times when he doesn't have his powers, and that's all fine and well, you all know, and I'm not going to say we because I'm not a big fan of him, but you all know, fans of Superman, that he's going to get his powers back. And so whether or not you have this feeling in your head he's doing the right thing because it's intrinsically who he is, he also intrinsically knows that he's going to get his powers back also.
So if I may paraphrase, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't like that he doesn't have to work for his abilities, and you don't trust that he is inherently good. You don't trust someone that kind of pure.
It's not that I don't trust somebody pure. It's just that there is a genuine part of the story element there that's just it's fine. It'll work out. It'll work out because it just does, because that's just the way that life is. And life isn't that way. Sometimes it's going to go against you, and you have to work a lot harder than what you would imagine.
This is a very fascinating thing, and I think a great note to end on, because what you've just said is basically what is now the canonical motivation of Lex Luthor. Lex sees Superman and the fact that he's all powerful and that he doesn't have to work for it as the end of human innovation. He sees him as a threat to people trying to protect themselves because they can sit back and they know he'll cover it. Lex sees him as a threat because he's the end of us trying to be better.
Let's look at that very first story. Sorry to drag this out, but let's look at that very first story in Action Comics number 1000 that we all just read.
Yep.
Every single person in there leans on him as that 1% that they need a little bit extra right at the end.
Well, I think you're specifically mentioning there's the one cop, Maggie Sawyer, who says 99% of the time my team can handle it.
How about the criminal that just kind of kept doing it and counting on the fact that Superman was going to be there to have patience? Where's the cop that shoots that guy in the face?
Or there's the fireman who even says, I may have even run into the building because I expected Superman to show up.
Right? So at the end of the day, it's if people keep relying on this perfect, ideal thing to happen, the same way that Superman relies on it to just always, his powers are always going to be there. Whether they're there from day to day, they're always going to be there. That, to me, is the problem.
I mean, I'm only to a certain extent going to keep trying to shove Superman down your throat, but only in the context of I want to expose our listeners to different stories and things like that. But maybe moving forward, what I'll try to do to give you maybe a bit more of a window in is find those stories where Lex is basically saying this, because I think part of what makes Superman interesting is that some people see him as the beacon and other people see him as the problem. And maybe that's what makes that character last. Maybe that's why he's been around for 80 years, because he is kind of polarizing that way, because he has the potential to be the best and the worst, maybe. But yeah, I think that's really interesting that you basically said almost verbatim Lex Luthor's problem with Superman. That's pretty neat.
I should lend him some of my hair. We could be brothers.
Well, that was actually a great episode. We had some really great questions that were sent in. If you guys want to send your own questions, which we definitely love when you do that, we've got many media formats and locations that you can do so.
Hit us up on Facebook at
Dr. DC Podcast.
On Instagram, we get likes at
Dr. DC Podcast.
On Twitter,
at Dr. DC.
Our email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Our website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
We are on Instagram.
I already said that.
Okay, I was not half paying attention. And make sure you go to iTunes.
I thought I was gonna be the one to fuck it up.
No, it's okay. Go to our. Make sure you go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and some comments that we'll read them on the episode.
Yeah.
No matter what they are.
Yeah, rate, review, subscribe. That helps us out. We're also on Spotify and Google Play and Libsyn. So wherever you get your podcasts, just make sure you're checking us out and leave a review if you can.
Absolutely.
Well, some kind of sign off.
Adios.
Bye.
I missed you, motherfuckers.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.